In forgotten deserts and buried cities, whispers of lost civilizations echo through the dust. Symbols no one can read, structures no one can explain, and artifacts that shouldn't exist. These are not myths, they're puzzles carved into stone, daring us to question everything we know about history. This is where archaeology meets the unknown, and logic takes a step back. Nestled at the foot of the Great Sphinx and not far from the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Valley Temple, often overshadowed by its more famous neighbors, hides in plain sight. Yet this unassuming structure has sparked fierce debate among archaeologists and geologists for decades. Not because of its impressive design, nor because of ornate carvings, there are none, but because of its strange erosion marks and impossibly massive stone blocks, raising a bold question. Could the Valley Temple have actually survived a global Great Flood? What do you think is the Valley Temple? A structure built by the ancient Egyptians, or the last remnant of a forgotten civilization buried by flood and time? Share your thoughts, because who knows, you might be the one to help unlock one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Most tourists who visit Giza focus their attention on the pyramids or the Sphinx. But if you walk around in front of the Sphinx, you'll notice a square, undecorated structure with towering stone walls. This is the Valley Temple, believed to be the place where the mummification rituals of Pharaoh Khafra were carried out. Yet behind that official facade lies a series of unresolved mysteries. The Valley Temple is built from limestone and granite blocks estimated to weigh up to 200 tons, each equivalent to the weight of a Boeing 747 jet. These stones were not only transported from quarries located hundreds of kilometers away, but also stacked with near-perfect precision, without mortar. This construction technique far exceeds what we know of ancient Egyptian standards and has puzzled many modern engineers. One of the strangest features of the Valley Temple is its complete symbolic silence. There are no hieroglyphs, no reliefs, and no decorative motifs on its walls. This is in stark contrast to the traditions of ancient Egyptian civilization, where pharaohs consistently used architecture to display their power, record mythology, and immortalize their names. This absence has led many scholars to question, was the Valley Temple truly built by the Egyptians, or was it an ancient structure merely repurposed by them? If so, who were its true builders, and from what era might it actually date? One of the most controversial pieces of evidence regarding the Valley Temple is the presence of vertical erosion marks on its stone surfaces, something that doesn't align with Egypt's current arid desert climate. According to geologist Robert Schoch, these marks weren't caused by wind-blown sand, but rather by prolonged periods of heavy rainfall and flowing water. This suggests that the structure once existed in a humid, rainy climate, possibly during the end of the Ice Age, around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, when Egypt was lush green and filled with rivers and streams. If this theory is correct, it would push the age of the Valley Temple back thousands of years before the rise of ancient Egyptian civilization. That would mean either the Egyptians inherited this structure from an earlier unknown civilization, or that we have completely misunderstood the trajectory of human development. But what kind of structure could survive for millennia through global floods, climate upheaval, and the wear of time? One of the boldest and most controversial theories surrounding the Valley Temple is the question, could this structure be a surviving remnant of a global Great Flood? When we look across ancient legends from around the world, from Sumer, Babylon, India, and Greece, to the Bible, we find a strangely consistent motif, a cataclysmic flood that wiped out nearly all of humanity, sparing only a few individuals who were either forewarned or possessed advanced knowledge. Were these simply myths or veiled memories of real events passed down through symbolic storytelling? When compared to the water erosion marks on the Valley Temple's stone walls, it becomes clear that this was not merely the result of normal rain or localized flooding. These marks suggest the structure once endured sustained rainfall or a flood of massive proportions, possibly even on a global scale. The temple's architecture adds weight to this theory: no roof walls several meters thick, and a complete lack of decoration or religious imagery. None of this serves to showcase power or glory. It looks instead like a building designed to withstand extreme natural disasters and endure through deep time. Some researchers even propose that the Valley Temple may have been built as a prehistoric vault meant to safeguard sacred artifacts, vital information, or ancient knowledge from the collapse of a world that existed long before recorded history. If this is true, then the Valley Temple is not merely a religious structure, it is a refuge for human memory, surviving both the ravages of time and the legendary floods that tried to erase it. The Great Flood hypothesis is more than just legend. Many modern scientists have confirmed the existence of extreme climate events around 12,000 years ago, most notably the Younger Dryas, a sudden return to glacial conditions after the Ice Age. This event triggered rapid melting of ice sheets and a sharp rise in sea levels, potentially causing massive global flooding. If the Valley Temple truly dates back to that time and survived it, then it could very well be the first physical evidence of what ancient myths have been hinting at for millennia. If the Valley Temple truly survived a global cataclysmic event, then there might have existed a prehistoric civilization with extraordinarily advanced construction capabilities now lost to history. Structures like the Valley Temple may hold important artifacts or information that modern humanity is not yet capable of understanding or unlocking. Ancient legends long dismissed as myth could actually contain fragments of real historical events that have yet to be rediscovered. The Valley Temple may appear simple and unremarkable, but behind its towering stone walls lies a story that could overturn everything we currently believe about human history. Whether or not you accept the Great Flood theory, the physical erosion, the extreme architecture, and the total absence of texts all point to one conclusion: we don't know everything about our past. And perhaps the Valley Temple is still waiting to be decoded, its layers of stone and water-worn walls acting as silent letters etched into history by time, rain, and oblivion. In the heart of the Egyptian desert, far from the polished grandeur of Giza's pyramids, stands a monument that predates them all, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara. At first glance, it may appear modest compared to its younger cousins, but beneath its limestone exterior lies something far more radical. This structure was not only the first pyramid Egypt ever built, it was also perhaps the first true mega-project in human history. Constructed over 400-600 years ago during the Third Dynasty, this architectural marvel was commissioned by Pharaoh Djoser and brought to life by his vizier and architect Imhotep, a name that would echo through Egyptian history. What began as a simple tomb evolved into a towering six-tiered pyramid standing nearly 60 meters tall, composed of over 330,000 cubic meters of limestone. But it was more than just size that made it revolutionary. Question for you: if this truly was humanity's first mega-project built with no iron tools, no wheels, and no written blueprints, then how did they do it? Was it purely ancient ingenuity and manpower? Or could there be something we're still missing? Drop your theories in the comments. We're listening. To understand the scope of Saqqara, one must imagine the sheer logistics of its creation in the context of ancient Egypt. This was not a small-scale tomb built by a local village. It was a national endeavor, mobilizing thousands of laborers, architects, masons, artists, and logistical coordinators, all working in unison across years, if not decades. From quarrying massive blocks of limestone to transporting them across desert terrain, the demands were unprecedented. There were no iron tools, no wheels, no modern scaffolding, and yet they managed to erect one of the largest stone structures the world had ever seen. The organizational structure required to make this happen suggests a centralized state apparatus of stunning sophistication. Djoser's government had to plan delegate feedhouse and direct thousands of workers while also maintaining Egypt's day-to-day functions. This alone makes the Step Pyramid stand apart, not just as a tomb, but as a symbol of Egypt's leap from regional power to a coordinated civilization. The pyramid wasn't built in isolation. It was the centerpiece of a massive 15-hectare funerary complex, complete with temples, courtyards, ceremonial buildings, and high walls. This was no mere burial site, it was a political and spiritual capital, meant to mirror the pharaoh's earthly kingdom in the afterlife. Every block, every corridor, every symbolic structure had to be designed with intention. And all of this required not just architectural vision, but bureaucratic will. The scale of this undertaking suggests the first large-scale workforce management in history. It's likely that work crews were divided by skill and organized hierarchically, with supervisors reporting to project leaders who in turn answered to elite officials. This implies the presence of record-keeping, taxation, supply chains, and central oversight elements we typically associate with modern states. In this way, Saqqara wasn't just Egypt's first pyramid, it was a visible expression of centralized authority, a declaration that Pharaoh's power extended beyond warfare and religious rites. It was logistical, infrastructural, and deeply administrative. Before Saqqara tombs were simple mastabas, low rectangular structures made of mud brick. The Step Pyramid was a radical departure. It was built entirely of stone, and instead of a single level, it reached upward in 6-stepped tiers. This wasn't just a technical leap, it was a conceptual one. Imhotep and his team weren't just building higher, they were redefining what a monument could be. And in doing so, they altered Egypt's cultural trajectory for millennia. The switch to stone was more than aesthetic, it signaled permanence. Unlike mud brick, stone would endure across generations, across dynasties, perhaps even across the apocalypse. Djoser wasn't just building for himself, he was building for eternity. And to manifest that vision, the entire kingdom had to work together, united by a singular, godlike goal. This is what makes Saqqara a true megaproject, not just its physical mass, but the national-scale mobilization of resources, labor, ideology, and time. Much of the Step Pyramid's success lies in the genius of Imhotep, one of the few non-royal individuals in Egyptian history to be deified. Architect, high priest, physician, and engineer, Imhotep's vision transcended what was imaginable in his time. He was not merely designing a tomb, he was inventing a new architectural language, one that would influence every pyramid that followed. To achieve this, he had to develop techniques for stacking and stabilizing heavy limestone blocks, for aligning structures with astronomical precision, and for ensuring long-term structural integrity, all without precedent. He had no models to follow, no other pyramids to draw inspiration from. He created the blueprint that all later pharaohs would imitate. But Imhotep's most remarkable achievement wasn't architectural, it was organizational. He envisioned a structure so immense that it required a proto-industrial level of coordination centuries before the Industrial Revolution. His work at Saqqara was the first time human beings had ever orchestrated such a complex project and succeeded. The step pyramid is often overshadowed by the more symmetrical and photogenic pyramids of Giza. But in truth, Saqqara was the model upon which they were all built. Without Saqqara, there would be no Great Pyramid. It proved that stone could be shaped into ambition, that a centralized government could command the forces of nature and labor, and that architecture could serve both the gods and the state. Even today, when we visit Saqqara, we don't just see a tomb. We see the moment Egypt became a true civilization, capable of planning, scaling, and executing an idea that required years of labor, thousands of workers, and a unifying national vision. It was not simply the resting place of a king, it was a statement that Egypt could think big, that permanence was possible, that with enough people, purpose, and power, even the desert could be transformed into eternity. Located just about 80 kilometers off the coast of Florida, west of Bimini Island, Bahamas, a series of massive stone blocks aligned beneath the ocean floor has long been a source of controversy and fascination. It has captured the imagination of thousands, from scientists and divers to believers in the mystical. The name Bimini Road evokes the image of an ancient structure once standing on dry land before being swallowed by the sea, leaving behind traces that continue to fuel endless debate. Have you ever heard of Bimini Road before? If you discovered a stone path under the ocean, would you think it's a natural formation or the remains of a forgotten civilization? Share your first impression in the comments. Bimini Road was first discovered in 1968 by a team of divers led by researcher J. Manson Valentine. When the first images of the structure emerged beneath the crystal-clear waters of the Caribbean Sea, observers were stunned. Before them lay a massive series of flat rectangular stone blocks aligned like an ancient stone-paved road stretching across the ocean floor. Each block measured between 2 to 4 meters in length, about 2 meters in width, and weighed several tons, arranged with such remarkable precision that many believed this could not have been a random product of nature. Notably, the formation is not perfectly straight, but curves gently in a specific direction, making it resemble a remnant of a long-lost construction, perhaps a foundation harbor or defensive wall swallowed by the sea long ago. This discovery immediately ignited a wave of debate regarding its true origin. From the moment it was discovered, Bimini Road became the focal point of one of the most controversial and fascinating theories that it is the remaining remnant of a civilization submerged beneath the sea, possibly the legendary Atlantis itself. What makes this theory particularly compelling is not just the power of imagination, but a series of geological anomalies and strange features that suggest a possible artificial origin. The first striking detail is the unusual shape and symmetry of the stone blocks. They are nearly square or rectangular, with edges that appear evenly worn, something difficult to explain through natural processes alone. The entire formation stretches over 800 meters, arranged in a gentle curve, like an ancient road or harbor structure, leading many to believe it could be a surviving fragment of a large-scale construction. Several prominent figures have openly supported this hypothesis, including Charles Berlitz, author of The Mystery of Atlantis, and Dr. Greg Little, a psychologist and amateur archaeologist. They argue that the symmetry, scale, and location of the formation go far beyond what could result from random natural forces. Even more intriguing is the prophecy of Edgar Cayce, who once declared that evidence of Atlantis would be found near Bimini around 1968 or 1969, and indeed, Bimini Road was discovered in 1968. For believers, this is far more than just a line of submerged stones. It is the physical trace of a prehistoric civilization that once thrived and was later forgotten by mainstream history. In addition to the main underwater stone structure, many divers and amateur researchers over the past decades have reported discovering other features that appear to be traces of artificial construction. Some large stone blocks are arranged into flat platforms, resembling foundations or support bases. Other stones bear strange markings, grooves, or unusual shapes that suggest they may have once served technical or ceremonial purposes. In certain areas, there are layered or stacked stone blocks with clearly defined square shapes, further fueling suspicion. While these details have not been officially confirmed by the scientific community, they remain mysterious puzzle pieces that support the belief that Bimini Road is not merely a natural formation, but a remnant of an ancient structure buried by the sea. Not everyone agrees with the mystical theory surrounding Bimini Road. Many geologists, especially Dr. Eugene Shin of the U.S. Geological Survey (USGS), argue that the entire structure can be fully explained by natural geological processes. According to their studies, the stones that make up Bimini Road are actually marine limestone formed thousands of years ago. This type of rock tends to crack along straight lines, a phenomenon known as natural jointing, causing it to break into large blocks with nearly square or rectangular shapes. Over time, factors such as erosion, karstification, the dissolution of limestone, and tectonic shifting have caused these blocks to move and settle close together in a seemingly organized pattern. As a result, they create the illusion of a deliberately constructed road. Their conclusion is clear: nature is fully capable of producing this formation without any human involvement. Another controversial aspect is the age of Bimini Road. Some isotope dating analyses suggest it's about 2,500 years old. Atlantis supporters argue it's over 10,000 years old, matching the time frame in which Plato claimed Atlantis disappeared. There is no absolute evidence or sample that can confirm a definitive age. This uncertainty leaves the door open to many possibilities, from a real ancient construction to a coincidental geological formation. Bimini Road lies within the infamous Bermuda Triangle, an area known for mysterious phenomena: ships and planes, disappearing compasses spinning wildly. While no scientific link has been proven, this geographic coincidence adds a layer of intrigue to every theory about Bimini. For decades, thousands of divers, filmmakers, and archaeology enthusiasts have traveled to Bimini to observe, film, and interpret this underwater road. Videos, photos, and 3D models have spread widely online, with each person offering their own interpretation, creating a maze of theories as captivating as the site itself. Today, even without a clear verdict, Bimini Road has become a cultural icon, a place where the boundary between science and legend fades. It's not just a geological curiosity, it represents the human desire to explore, to question, and to believe that the past holds secrets yet to be revealed. So what is Bimini Road really? An ancient road swallowed by the ocean? Or simply nature's clever game of geometry? The answer remains elusive. But what cannot be denied is this: the very ambiguity is what makes Bimini Road one of the world's most captivating mysteries, a place where anyone can dive deep literally and imaginatively to search for their own truth. Hidden deep in the remote forests of southern Siberia lies a megalithic enigma that has captivated archaeologists, adventurers, and alternative historians alike. Known as the Mount Sharia megaliths, this mysterious site in the Gornaya Sharia region of Russia contains some of the largest and most anomalous stone blocks ever discovered, each weighing hundreds to thousands of tons, some towering over 40 meters high. Arranged in patterns that seem too geometric, too deliberate to be random, These colossal granite formations raise one of the most tantalizing questions in modern exploration. Are they natural formations shaped by time and geology, or remnants of an unknown civilization, perhaps even the handiwork of giants? What do you think? Could such massive orderly stones truly be the work of nature alone? Or are we looking at the forgotten traces of something far older and more mysterious? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever seen anything like this before? At first glance, the Mount Shaurya rocks resemble a ruined fortress wall. Huge rectangular blocks appear neatly stacked with sharp angles and near-perfect right-angled corners. Some look as if they've been precision cut with advanced tools, complete with smooth surfaces, linear edges, and uncanny symmetry. Such features would be impressive in any architectural context, but here they emerge from the wilderness, far from any known cultural center, and even farther from any accepted narrative of early civilization. What makes the mystery of Mount Shaurya especially compelling is not just the size of the stones or their uncanny alignment, it is what's not found at the site. Unlike other megalithic wonders around the world, from Stonehenge to the pyramids of Egypt, Mount Shaurya lacks all the typical cultural traces that would suggest human activity. There are no tools scattered near the base of the blocks, no pottery shards, no signs of habitation, no carvings or inscriptions, and most significantly, no evidence of who might have built them or why. This total absence of archaeological context is highly unusual. Even the oldest known stone constructions, such as Göbekli Tepe or the ruins of Baalbek, come with some form of cultural footprint. Whether in the form of burial remains, ritual items, or artistic engravings, ancient sites typically leave clues. But at Mount Shaurya, the silence is deafening. The stones rise like ghosts from the earth, massive and mute, surrounded only by trees and time. For traditional archaeologists, this lack of evidence is precisely why they argue the site is purely geological. They attribute the formations to natural tectonic processes such as vertical jointing, weathering, and freeze-thaw erosion over millions of years. According to this view, the blocks are nothing more than fractured granite slabs, coincidentally shaped into what appear to be architectural forms. But skeptics of this explanation point to several details that challenge the natural formation theory. Some blocks appear to be lifted and placed atop one another, defying the random logic of erosion. In certain places, horizontal stacking meets vertical alignment, creating patterns reminiscent of stone fortifications. The edges between blocks are so sharp and the angles so precise that some believe they cannot be the accidental outcome of time and nature alone. More puzzling still is the fact that no extensive geological survey has been conducted to settle the debate. The Russian scientific community has largely ignored the site, and no major archaeological excavation has taken place. This absence of formal study only fuels speculation. Why hasn't Mount Shaurya been fully investigated? Is it simply too remote and logistically difficult, or is something more deliberate at play? Without cultural artifacts to anchor the site in time, theorists have turned to more radical ideas. Some believe the megaliths are the ruins of a forgotten civilization, one that predates written history and possessed engineering capabilities far beyond what we associate with prehistoric peoples. Others suggest that Mount Shaurya may be a natural site that was later modified, a sort of canvas shaped by both nature and intelligent hands. Perhaps the most controversial theory is that the megaliths are the work of ancient giants, beings referenced in mythologies across the world. From the Nephilim of the Hebrew Bible to the giants of Norse legends, tales of massive humanoids capable of lifting stones too heavy for men have long circulated in human folklore. Could the Mount Shaurya blocks be their handiwork? Mainstream science rejects such ideas, but proponents point to other enigmatic megaliths, like those at Baalbek in Lebanon, where the stone of the pregnant woman weighs over 1,000 tons, and ask the same question: who moved these stones and how? And if such feats could be accomplished in the distant past, why are there no remnants of the technology or culture that would be needed to achieve them? At Mount Shoria, the mystery deepens precisely because there is nothing else to find. No tools, no settlements, not even signs of quarrying. Just the stones. Mount Shoria's remote location adds another layer to its mystery. Nestled in the Kemerovo Oblast of southern Siberia, the site is surrounded by dense mountainous forest, with no major roads or infrastructure nearby. There is no official tourist path, no protective fencing, no information boards, just a massive stone anomaly in the wilderness, largely undocumented. Because of this, most of the information available comes from independent explorers and fringe researchers, many of whom visited the site at great personal effort. Their photographs and videos reveal the scale and strangeness of the formations, but without scientific backing, their claims remain speculative. Yet the lack of academic interest itself is suspicious to some, prompting questions about academic inertia, government disinterest, or even intentional dismissal of anything that contradicts mainstream chronology. In the end, the Mount Shoria megaliths remain suspended between two worlds, one of natural wonder and one of unanswered questions. They could very well be the product of geological processes sculpted by the patient hand of time. Or they might represent a chapter of human or pre-human history that has been lost, a story buried beneath the moss and silence of the Siberian wilderness. What's undeniable is the awe they inspire. Whether you believe they were carved by giants, erected by forgotten engineers, or formed by nature's own symmetry, the megaliths of Mount Shoria challenge us to look again, not just at the stones, but at the limits of what we assume about the past. And perhaps the greatest mystery is not what's there, but what's missing. High in the sacred valley of Peru, nestled among the Andean mountains, lies one of the most astonishing feats of ancient engineering, Ollantaytambo. This site, once a royal estate and ceremonial center of the Inca Empire, is best known for its massive stone terraces, giant steps carved into the mountainside, each formed from enormous blocks of pink granite. But what truly baffles historians and engineers alike is not just the scale, but the perfection. What's more impressive to you, the size of the stones or the perfection of the cuts? Share your thoughts, theories, or even wild guesses. We want to know what you think. The Wall of the Six Monoliths at Ollantaytambo is one of the most mysterious structures remaining from the Inca civilization, not just because of its massive size, but because of the astonishing precision in its construction. Each stone in the wall weighs around 50 tons, yet they stand upright and fit together so tightly that not even a thin razor blade can slide between the seams. What's remarkable is that these stones were not held together by mortar, yet they've endured for centuries, withstanding powerful earthquakes. Their surfaces are so flat, they reflect light like mirrors, and the corners are crafted with absolute precision. There are no rough cuts or signs of crude chiseling. This isn't just a pile of stacked stones. It's a system of interlocking blocks that were cut, shaped, and finished at a level that even modern technology finds hard to replicate. And so the question remains, how did the Inca, without steel wheels or machinery, achieve such perfection? How did the Inca, with no known writing system and no metal tools capable of cutting granite, manage such precision? According to mainstream archaeological views, the Inca are believed to have shaped their stone blocks using simple tools like hammerstones combined with sand, abrasion, a labor-intensive process requiring hours, even days of constant grinding to achieve the desired surface. However, when examining the structures at Ollantaytambo directly, this theory starts to lose credibility. The stone edges here are razor-sharp, the corners are nearly perfectly square, and the surfaces are so smooth they resemble cuts made by modern industrial machinery. There are no signs of chipping misalignment or rough handling, nothing that resembles the product of primitive methods. These details suggest that this was not the accidental outcome of basic tools, but rather the deliberate work of highly skilled craftsmanship and sophisticated techniques that remain unexplained to this day. Another astonishing detail at Ollantaytambo is the presence of internal right-angle cuts, precise 90-degree angles, carved deep inside the joints between stone blocks. These are the kinds of cuts that are extremely difficult to execute with modern tools, let alone with ancient ones. Some stones aren't simply joined along flat surfaces, they are interlocked in 3 dimensions with protrusions that fit perfectly into corresponding recesses on neighboring blocks. It's like an ancient 3D puzzle crafted with incredible precision. This level of accuracy goes far beyond aesthetics. It served a structural purpose, reinforcing the construction and increasing its stability against seismic shocks, a constant threat in the Andean region. In fact, Ollantaytambo has withstood multiple powerful earthquakes, while many surrounding colonial-era buildings, supposedly more modern, were severely damaged. This raises a compelling question. Did the Inca already understand earthquake-resistant engineering centuries ago? But perhaps the most haunting question is this: if the Inca truly carved these blocks with only stone hammers, why is there so little evidence of error? No chisel marks, no misaligned joints, no signs of failed cuts or trial runs. It's as though each stone was crafted with an intent and precision difficult to reconcile with the tools said to be available at the time. Faced with the limitations of conventional explanations, some researchers have proposed more radical, sometimes even unorthodox theories. Could the Inca have possessed a form of technology that humanity has since lost? One intriguing idea suggests they may have extracted a type of acid from Amazonian jungle plants capable of temporarily softening the structure of stone, making it easier to mold and shape. Although there is no solid scientific proof for this, the theory remains fascinating and widely discussed. Other theories go even further, proposing that the Inca may have harnessed high-frequency sound vibrations capable of weakening the molecular bonds within stone and enabling smoother cuts. While these ideas border on science fiction, they reflect the extent to which modern minds struggle to explain what seems inexplicable, and how at times our current ignorance may be hinting at a forgotten past we're not yet ready to face. The mystery deepens when we consider where these stones came from. The granite used in the Temple of the Sun was quarried across the valley, high up on the opposite mountain face, more than 6 kilometers away and 400 meters higher in elevation. To get each 50-ton block to the site, the builders would have had to drag it down steep terrain, across a river, and then up again. This alone is an engineering puzzle, but moving a stone is one thing, shaping it with mirror-smooth precision is another. And so, we arrive at a crossroads between explanation and awe. Was this simply the result of generations of skilled labor, fueled by religious devotion and perfected by trial and error? Or was there knowledge perhaps lost, or perhaps purposefully hidden, that gave these ancient builders tools beyond what we currently understand? What makes Ollantaytambo so powerful is not just its scale or age, it's the impossible cleanliness of the work, the flatness of the surfaces, the way corners don't round off over time, the consistency across all blocks. In a world where we often celebrate modern technology, here lies a site that quietly whispers, "You still don't know everything." Today, visitors walk among these giant steps, often unaware of the mysteries that lie beneath their feet. But those who pause, who run their hands along the flawless edges of the granite, are left with a question that echoes louder with each passing year. How were they cut so perfectly, and what does that say about what we've forgotten? In the high plains of Bolivia, at an altitude of over 3,800 meters above sea level, lies one of the most puzzling archaeological sites on Earth, Puma Punku. Part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, this ancient ruin has baffled scientists, engineers, and historians for decades. Not because of its age or because of the civilization that built it, but because of how it was built. The stonework at Puma Punku demonstrates a level of precision engineering and architectural mastery that defies modern tools and challenges everything we think we know about the capabilities of ancient peoples. If ancient civilizations didn't have high-tech tools, how do you think they achieved such extraordinary precision at Puma Punku? Do you believe it was human ingenuity or something more mysterious? One of the most astonishing features that makes Puma Punku such a mysterious archaeological site is the presence of massive stone blocks crafted with near-perfect precision. Scattered across the high plateau are blocks of andesite and red sandstone, each weighing between 50 and over 100 tons, as if they were once part of a giant structure that has since collapsed. But what truly shocks researchers is not just their size or weight, but how they were cut. The surfaces are flawlessly flat, and the corners are carved into almost perfect right angles, with tolerances measuring within thousandths of an inch, a level of precision that even modern machinery struggles to achieve. Remarkably, many of these blocks feature grooves, holes, and interlocking notches carved so precisely that they fit together like giant Lego pieces. This suggests that the stoneworking techniques at Puma Punku were not only advanced, but may have surpassed our current technology in some aspects, raising a profound question: who built it and how? Among the ruins of Puma Punku, the most remarkable are the H-shaped stone blocks, commonly referred to as H-blocks, which have become symbols of mystery and seemingly timeless engineering. These massive stones are carved into perfect H shapes, with flawless symmetry, each one almost identical in size, depth, groove placement, and corner angles. Their surfaces are extremely smooth, and the inner corners are so sharply and precisely cut that even modern stone-cutting technologies would struggle to achieve such perfection without highly calibrated measuring instruments. Engineers who have studied these blocks found tolerances of less than 1 to 10,000 of an inch, a level of precision typically seen only in aerospace or high-tech manufacturing. And yet, here it is, embedded in ruins thousands of years old, a paradox that challenges the entire traditional narrative of engineering history. What's even more mysterious is how these stones were carved. The people of the Tiwanaku culture, active in this region around 500–1000 CE, are not known to have possessed iron tools, advanced metallurgy, or even the wheel. Yet the workmanship suggests the use of machine-grade lathes, drills, and straight-edge cutters. There are even perfectly bored circular holes, evenly spaced and smooth, that resemble the work of modern power drills, all done in some of the hardest stone materials available in nature. Even with modern technology, recreating the stone blocks at Puma Punku remains a serious challenge. Many stonemasons and engineers have admitted that without diamond tools, laser leveling devices, or computer-aided design CAD software, achieving the level of precision seen at this site is nearly impossible. The idea that ancient people could have used only stone hammers and copper chisels, the only tools believed to exist at the time, to craft such perfect grooves, right angles, and smooth surfaces, seems almost unimaginable. In fact, to replicate a single H block with identical precision, today technicians would require detailed 3D models, CNC cutting machines, and the assistance of specialized modern equipment. But the mystery doesn't stop at carving. These blocks weren't quarried locally. Many of them were transported from sites 10 to 90 kilometers away, across rugged terrain, steep inclines, and rivers, without the aid of wheels cranes or animals capable of hauling multi-ton stones. And when they finally arrived at Pumapunku, they were not just dumped, they were assembled with extraordinary care and alignment in ways that have withstood the harsh weather conditions of the high Andes for centuries. The layout of Pumapunku also suggests a level of sophisticated planning. Scholars believe it may once have been part of a ritual complex or a gateway structure, possibly aligned with astronomical events. However, much of the site lies in ruin today, not due to erosion or neglect, but possibly from a cataclysmic event that shattered and toppled many of the stones. Some researchers speculate a massive earthquake may have destroyed the complex, scattering the massive blocks that now lie strewn across the ground like the remnants of a collapsed futuristic city. Because of the extreme precision and the inexplicable techniques required to create it, Pumapunku has become a lightning rod for alternative theories. Some believe the site was built using a now-lost ancient technology forgotten in the sands of time. Others suggest the influence of a pre-flood advanced civilization, far older than Tiwanaku. And then, of course, there are those who point to extraterrestrial intervention, ancient astronauts who may have shared technology with early humans, resulting in feats of engineering we still can't match today. Mainstream archaeology rejects these ideas, attributing the achievements to the ingenuity of the Tiwanaku culture, now largely lost to history. But even the most cautious researchers struggle to explain the methods and tools that would have allowed for such precision, especially given the lack of written records, metallurgy, or sophisticated transportation systems. In recent years, 3D scanning and digital modeling of the blocks have only deepened the mystery. The more scientists study them, the more questions arise. Why were the stones cut in such complex, interlocking shapes, if not to support a highly engineered structure? Why is there no evidence of trial and error, of discarded mistakes, or half-finished blocks? And most importantly, how did they achieve such perfection without any of the tools we take for granted today? Pumapunku stands as a silent enigma, not just a ruin, but a challenge, a monument that seems to whisper across the centuries. You don't really understand your past. Its stones, unmoving and undecayed, contain questions that modern science has yet to fully answer. And perhaps somewhere beneath the surface, or in the mathematical symmetry of its design, the truth still lies waiting to be discovered. Because sometimes the most advanced technologies aren't the ones ahead of us. They're the ones we've forgotten. In the sun-scorched deserts of southern Iraq, rising out of the dust like a forgotten monument to the sky, stands one of the most enigmatic structures of the ancient world, the Great Ziggurat of Ur. Built over 4,000 years ago by the Sumerians, the earliest known civilization on Earth, this towering step pyramid was once the centerpiece of the ancient city of Ur, dedicated to the moon god Nana. To archaeologists, it is a religious temple. To some, it is a marvel of early engineering. But to others, it may be something far stranger, a portal, a stargate, or a forgotten relic of advanced knowledge far beyond its time. What was the true purpose of this immense ziggurat? And why, after millennia of study, do so many questions remain unanswered? Which theory makes the most sense to you? Share your thoughts, theories, or even wild guesses. We want to know what you think. The Great Ziggurat, commissioned by King Urnamu around 2100 BCE, is a massive structure made of sun-baked and fired bricks standing on a rectangular base over 60 meters long and nearly 30 meters high in its original form. Unlike the Egyptian pyramids, the ziggurat was not a tomb. It was a sacred platform, a bridge between heaven and earth, believed to connect the mortal world with the realm of the gods. At its summit once stood a temple reserved for priests and divine rituals off-limits to the public. For the people of ancient Sumer, this was more than just architecture. It was theology in stone, a physical ladder to the celestial realms. The ziggurat of Ur is one of the best preserved and most studied ziggurats of the Mesopotamian world, yet even now, new mysteries continue to emerge. Over the centuries, local legends have grown around the site. Some say it inspired the biblical tale of the Tower of Babel. Others believe it was a place where gods descended from the sky, or perhaps where they returned. These stories might sound mythical, even fantastical, but they're fueled by real questions that science hasn't been able to fully answer. Among all the theories, the most tantalizing and hotly debated is the idea that the ziggurat holds traces of lost technical knowledge secrets embedded in its very design, construction, and surrounding artifacts. Over decades of excavation, archaeologists have discovered strange objects and symbols near the site of Ur. Clay tablets found in adjacent temple rooms bear not just religious texts, but also precise astronomical calculations. Some even seem to track the movements of celestial bodies with astonishing accuracy, suggesting the Sumerians had knowledge of planetary cycles, lunar eclipses, and stellar alignments centuries before such data was recorded elsewhere. How did a civilization from the Bronze Age, with no telescopes or modern instruments, develop such insight into the heavens? Even more puzzling are the alignments of the structure itself. Some researchers have observed that the ziggurat's orientation and the position of its stairways appear to correspond to specific celestial events like the moonrise on solstices or equinoxes, aligning with the worship of Nana, the moon god. Others believe the structure encodes mathematical proportions found later in Babylonian star maps and even ancient Greek geometry. Could the ziggurat have doubled as an ancient observatory? Its high elevation and wide platform would have offered an unobstructed view of the night sky, perfect for celestial tracking. Some researchers argue that the entire complex of Ur, with its ziggurat at the center, was a cosmic diagram reflecting the heavens on Earth. And what if this was more than metaphor? If the Sumerians used the ziggurat to watch the stars, might they have seen more than just planets and comets? Could the stories of gods descending actually describe sightings of celestial objects, meteors, or even encounters with unexplained phenomena? Of all the speculative ideas surrounding the Great Ziggurat, none is as controversial or as captivating as the Stargate theory. Popularized by writers like Zecharia Sitchin and echoed in modern science fiction, the theory suggests that structures like the ziggurat were not just symbolic, but functional portals through which beings from other worlds could arrive. The multi-tiered design, the strange electromagnetic readings recorded at nearby sites, and the references to gates to the heavens in Sumerian myths all fuel this idea. Supporters point to the Anunnaki, mysterious deities in Sumerian lore, said to have descended from the skies as possible visitors not from the divine realm but from distant stars. They argue that the Great Ziggurat was not just a temple, but a technological interface built by or for beings who came from beyond Earth. There is no concrete evidence for this, of course. Mainstream archaeology rejects it. But the mystery persists because so much remains unexplained. Despite restoration efforts and decades of study, the ziggurat still keeps its secrets. Why were some bricks magnetized? Why are certain sections reinforced with materials not typical of the time? Why do some carvings near the foundations appear anachronistic, showing symbols later found in unrelated cultures? The deeper scientists dig, the more they find hints, not confirmations of something larger. A purpose that went beyond religion, beyond politics, perhaps even beyond what we usually consider possible in the ancient world. Could it be that the Great Ziggurat of Ur is not just a temple, but a monument to a forgotten intelligence, whether human, divine, or otherwise, one that possessed a deeper understanding of the cosmos, encoded it in bricks and angles, and left it for future generations to puzzle over? Or are we merely projecting our modern desires for mystery and meaning onto the past? Either way, the ziggurat stands silent, weathered, and unyielding, a structure caught between history and myth, science and speculation. Whether it was a tower to the gods or a gateway to the stars, it continues to challenge our understanding of what ancient humanity was truly capable of. And perhaps that's its greatest secret of all. Drop a comment below and let us know when and where you're watching this video. Wishing you all a wonderful day. On a quiet hillside in the town of Westford, Massachusetts, lies an old granite slab that at first glance appears to be nothing more than a natural relic. But under the right light from the right angle, faint carvings begin to emerge, as if someone from a distant past deliberately left behind a mark. That carving, now widely referred to as the Westford Knight, stands at the center of one of the strangest archaeological mysteries in American history. Could a European knight, possibly a member of the Templar Order, have set foot on this land centuries before Christopher Columbus ever set sail? Do you believe this carving could truly be a medieval knight or just an illusion of nature? If the Templars really reached America in the 1300s, what else might they have left behind? Share your thoughts, theories, or even wild guesses. We want to know what you think. The famous carving on the Westford stone is neither a grand work of art nor something easily visible to the naked eye. On the contrary, it is extremely faint, blending in with natural erosion marks. But when enhanced with chalk or scanned in 3D, a strange shape emerges: a human figure standing upright, holding what appears to be a shield or a sword, and wearing a helmet or armored headgear. Many alternative researchers, especially author David Goudsward and investigator Scott Walter, believe this is the image of an armored knight, possibly from the 14th century. The upright posture, bent knees, and especially what appears to be a great helm, a type of helmet common during the medieval period, are all cited as clues suggesting it could not be a coincidence. Some even claim they can make out a broadsword with a long blade and clearly defined hilt. If this really is a man-made carving from the medieval era, it would constitute a groundbreaking archaeological discovery, proof that Europeans may have reached America nearly 100 years before Columbus sailed in 1492. Even more intriguing, the depiction of a knight raises a dramatic question. Could this be evidence of the legendary Templar Order and their secret expeditions? One of the most controversial aspects of the Westford Knight carving lies in this: it does not resemble any form of Native American rock art found in the northeastern United States. Indigenous carvings in this region are typically abstract, featuring animal symbols, geometric patterns, or repetitive motifs often created for ceremonial purposes, territorial markers, or mythological storytelling. In contrast, the Westford Knight appears to depict a distinct human figure, shown standing upright, holding what seems to be a sword or shield with details that resemble a European medieval helmet. This stark difference makes it difficult for many to accept the natural erosion explanation. How could weathering alone produce a humanoid form so closely aligned with the image of a European knight from head to hand with such uncanny precision? A compelling theory pursued by many independent researchers links the Westford Knight carving to Henry Sinclair, a 14th-century Scottish nobleman. According to several controversial accounts, after the Templar Order was disbanded by the Church in 1312, surviving members went underground, and Sinclair was believed to have close ties with them. Central to this legend is a daring transatlantic expedition led by Sinclair in 1398, nearly a century before Columbus set foot in the New World. Some historians suggest that Sinclair's fleet reached the northeastern coast of what is now Massachusetts. There, a knight named Sir James Gunn, possibly part of the expedition, is said to have died. The Westford Knight carving is thought to be a stone memorial honoring him. If this theory holds any truth, it would not simply be a romantic legend. It would represent tangible evidence of European presence in America almost 100 years before the Age of Discovery officially began. Despite the allure and symbolic weight of the Westford Knight carving, mainstream archaeologists remain deeply skeptical. According to them, there is no physical evidence whatsoever in the surrounding area to support the theory of a pre-Columbian European presence. No campsites, no European artifacts, no pottery shards, weapons, or any form of medieval debris have ever been discovered at Westford, items that a genuine expedition would likely have left behind. Furthermore, many scholars argue that the carving could simply be a collection of natural scratches combined with a psychological phenomenon known as pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive familiar images in random patterns. From this perspective, the knight is merely a projection of human imagination onto the rock surface. Some researchers even suggest that the clearer details of the carving may have been altered or enhanced in the 19th or 20th century, making it extremely difficult to determine the carving's original shape and age with any certainty. Although met with skepticism from the academic community, the Westford Knight carving cannot be entirely dismissed, especially as many independent researchers have conducted modern analyses to investigate its authenticity. Using high-resolution laser scanning, 3D modeling, and microstructural surface analysis, they discovered that the grooves are consistently deep, sharply cut, and do not follow natural erosion patterns. These features strongly suggest intentional human craftsmanship. Some researchers even claim to have identified the shape of a cross on what appears to be the figure's shield, further strengthening connections to medieval Templar symbolism. The Westford Knight is also not an isolated case. It is often associated with other mysterious sites across North America, supporting the theory that Europeans may have arrived in the Americas before the officially recognized Age of Exploration. Among these are the Newport Tower in Rhode Island, a circular stone structure believed to resemble Templar chapels in Europe; Dighton Rock, carved with undeciphered markings once thought to be Portuguese or Viking script; and most famously, the Kensington Runestone in Minnesota, a stone slab bearing Norse runes that has fueled intense controversy. Together, they form a chain of enigmatic traces that remain unsolved to this day. The Westford Knight, whether a genuine remnant of a European knight or simply a trick of time, remains a captivating tale. It touches on our deepest curiosity about who truly arrived in the Americas first. Has mainstream history overlooked something crucial? Could there have been undocumented voyages long before Columbus? If it's just a weathered rock, why does it so closely resemble a medieval knight? If it's a hoax, why hasn't anyone been able to conclusively prove it? The Westford Knight is more than a carving on stone. It's a symbol of the thin line between legend and history. And until a definitive answer is found, it will continue to inspire and divide those who are passionate about unsolved historical mysteries. Beneath the scorched sands of the Taklamakan Desert, where the wind howls like a whisper from another age, archaeologists stumbled upon something that should not exist, a script no one can read. In the forgotten tombs of Lulan, a once thriving oasis swallowed by time, fragments of wood cloth and leather held markings unlike anything ever seen before. They weren't Chinese, they weren't Brahmi, they weren't Persian Sogdian, or any script known to history. They were something alien to our records, symbols that speak in silence, a language with no relatives, a message from a civilization that has vanished so completely even their words remain untouchable. For over 40 years, linguists, historians, and cryptographers have tried to decode them and failed. No key, no pattern, no clue where to begin. What kind of people write in a language the world has never known and then disappear without a trace? Welcome to the enigma of the unidentified script in the Lulan tomb, possibly the most haunting lost writing system humanity has ever unearthed. What do you think these symbols are? Were they part of a forgotten language, a sacred code only known to the dead, or just random marks with no meaning at all? Could this be evidence of a lost civilization we've never even heard of? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Your theory might be the one clue we've all been missing. One of the most perplexing aspects of the symbols discovered in the ancient Lulan tombs is their complete disconnection from every known writing system in human history. Since their discovery, linguists and symbol experts from China, Europe, and the United States have made extensive efforts to compare these signs with hundreds of ancient scripts from Chinese characters, Brahmi, Old Persian, and Sogdian, to lesser-known scripts like Khitan and Tangut. But all efforts have led to a single conclusion: the Lulan symbols do not belong to any known script family. They do not bear the structural brushstroke features of Chinese characters, nor do they follow the linear arrangement typical of Mesopotamian cuneiform. They also lack the curved diacritics or ornamental lines found in Brahmi or Arabic. Some symbols resemble abstract geometric forms, triangles, waves, spirals, while others appear more like ritual emblems or symbolic drawings. However, none of the symbols repeat in a consistent pattern that would allow researchers to establish grammatical structure or syntax, an essential condition to qualify a system as a true written language. What's most troubling is this: we have no tools to decipher them. There is no bilingual text, no historical reference point, no Rosetta Stone to unlock their meaning. All that remains are silent symbols on decaying materials, leaving behind an unanswered question that has lasted more than 3,000 years. To date, only a handful of samples of this writing have been found, mainly etched onto fragments buried alongside the mummified remains of individuals interred over 300-800 years ago. Some pieces were discovered on wooden boards, thought to be ritual items, others on strips of leather stitched into burial garments or laid across the chest of the deceased. The scarcity of material makes it nearly impossible to conduct any robust linguistic analysis. It's like finding a few puzzle pieces without knowing what the complete picture should even look like. There is no context, no repetition, no apparent syntax, just silence. This absence fuels the question: was it even a language, or was it something else entirely? Some scholars believe that the symbols found in the Lulan tombs may not represent a written language in the traditional sense, but rather a symbolic or ritual system used exclusively by a special class within society, such as priests or individuals with spiritual authority. This theory stems from the observation that some of the symbols were discovered on funerary objects buried with high-status women, suggesting that this system of signs may have been tied to sacred rites, or perhaps a kind of sacred language reserved for elite women. If this is true, the Lulan script could be compared to other mysterious symbolic systems like Rongo Rongo from Easter Island, an undeciphered script extremely rare and possibly never intended for everyday communication. However, what remains puzzling is that even most ritual or symbolic systems tend to have some degree of internal structure or rule-based expression. In the case of the Lulan script to this day, no underlying logic has been identified, leaving all current theories in a state of cautious uncertainty. What's particularly strange is that the Lulan region, far from being isolated, was once a bustling hub on the ancient Silk Road, linking the Han Chinese Empire to Central Asia and beyond. Merchants, monks, and mercenaries passed through Lulan, bearing languages, artifacts, and ideas from thousands of miles in every direction. And yet, nowhere else along the Silk Road, from the ruins of Nia to the frescoes of Khotan or the scrolls of Dunhuang, have researchers found anything remotely similar to this script. It does not match the Indo-European Tocharian alphabets. It bears no resemblance to Sogdian or Kharosthi. Even the more obscure Khitan or Tangut scripts fail to provide a match. This raises an unsettling possibility. Could the Lulan script represent a linguistic isolate, a system of writing developed in complete isolation, possibly for a now extinct language spoken only by a forgotten people whose cultural footprint was wiped out by time? Today, Lulan is nothing more than a name echoing across the desert. This once vital trading city on the ancient Silk Road was wiped off the map centuries ago, erased by desertification, the decline of water sources, and political turmoil. The people who once lived there vanished without a trace, perhaps absorbed into other ethnic groups, displaced by climate shifts, or decimated by disease and war. One of the few remnants that remain is the Lulan mummy, astonishingly well preserved for over 300 years. The mummy's distinct physical features, with a face blending both Asian and European traits, suggest that Lulan was once a place of rich ethnic diversity, far from being a homogeneous or isolated community. Could it be then that the unidentified script belonged to a marginalized or minority group, one never recorded in official histories? Perhaps they did not use the dominant writing systems of their time, but instead developed a private form of record-keeping for rituals, laws, or lineage, only to have it and their entire language fade into oblivion. The answer, perhaps, will remain buried forever beneath the sands of antiquity. Despite Lulan being mentioned in ancient Chinese texts, like the Hanshu Book of Han, there is no record in Chinese historical sources about a unique writing system used by the Lulan people. This silence could suggest that the system was either already extinct by the time the Chinese arrived, used only by a fringe group unrecognized by the imperial court, or too esoteric or sacred to be shared with outsiders. All three possibilities are equally haunting. In recent years, scholars have attempted to apply machine learning pattern recognition algorithms and multispectral imaging to the Lulan fragments, hoping to uncover hidden layers of meaning or trace connections to other scripts. But the results remain inconclusive. The samples are too few, too eroded, and too contextless. If more examples of the script are not discovered soon, the window of opportunity to understand it may close forever. The unidentified script found in the Lulan tombs represents one of the most enigmatic linguistic discoveries in Asia. A system of writing, or perhaps not even that, completely detached from all known traditions. A language with no echoes, symbols with no descendants. In a world where ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, cuneiform, and even the Voynich manuscript have been brought closer to understanding through relentless study, the Lulon script stands as a reminder that some histories remain beyond our grasp. It poses a simple yet haunting question: how many languages have existed on this earth that we will never even know existed? It was supposed to be just another artifact, a dusty relic from a forgotten dynasty resting quietly in the shadows of ancient Chinese history. But this one didn't belong. Unearthed from the ruins of the Zhou dynasty over 2,800 years old, the figurine appears ordinary. At first, a small human figure, carved in solemn posture, hands pressed together in ritual. But then your eyes rise to its head, and everything changes. Sitting atop this ancient figure is a crown that defies explanation, a wide, flat, disc-shaped structure eerily identical to the stereotypical flying saucers we've seen in sci-fi films. Smooth, circular, unmistakably modern, yet carved centuries before the concept of UFOs ever existed. No known text from the Zhou era describes anything like it. No burial records, no ceremonial scrolls, no legends passed down through the dynasties. It's as if this object was never meant to exist, or was never supposed to be understood. What is this strange figure? A forgotten priest? A visitor from the sky? Or a relic from a time or dimension lost to history? This is not just a statue. This is a mystery in clay, and it might just be one of the strangest artifacts ever uncovered in ancient China. What do you think? Is this just an artistic experiment from a forgotten corner of ancient China? A ritual symbol we no longer understand? Or could it be something far more mysterious? Could this UFO crown be a lost message from an ancient sky-watching culture? Or even a depiction of something or someone that didn't come from Earth? Drop your theories in the comments. We're watching them just as closely as this statue watches us. In Chinese antiquity, headwear was deeply symbolic. The hats and crowns of emperors, nobles, and priests were codified by strict hierarchies. Each shape, color, and decoration conveyed status, function, and lineage. Yet no surviving text inscription or pictorial source from the Zhou dynasty or the centuries surrounding it mentions anything remotely resembling this bizarre design. This is not a known form of guanmao, the official headgear worn by ministers, nor is it part of Taoist ritual attire. The circular shape doesn't match the peaked or flowing forms traditionally used to symbolize cosmic or ancestral connection. And therein lies the problem: the figurine's headgear does not belong in any established typology of Zhou dynasty fashion, religious symbolism, or social order. This mystery deepens when we turn to the historical texts. The Zhou dynasty was not an illiterate society. On the contrary, it was a period rich in documentation. The Book of Rites, the Zhou Li, and other classic texts outline everything from how to conduct state sacrifices to what color robes to wear at funerals. Archaeological finds from this era include bronze inscriptions, ritual codes, and even early philosophical treatises. Yet despite this wealth of detail, there is no mention of a ceremonial crown with a flat, saucer-like disc. No reference to a priest-king or spirit medium donning such attire. No illustrations, no descriptions, no poetic metaphors. This absence is deafening. Some argue that the figurine represents a regional practice, perhaps from a remote borderland of the Zhou world, where local customs diverged from the mainstream. That's plausible. The Zhou Empire was a decentralized feudal state, and local lords often blended central traditions with older tribal rites. But even then, we would expect some cultural echo of this headgear in tomb art, in funerary texts, or at least in parallel finds. But so far, this figurine stands alone. The mystery of the UFO crown has stirred a number of alternative theories. Some suggest that the figurine could be a forgery, a modern hoax meant to provoke curiosity or profit. But metallurgical analysis and carbon dating have supported its antiquity, placing it securely within the late Western Zhou or early Eastern Zhou period, around the 8th to 7th century BCE. Others propose that the figurine represents a mythological figure, perhaps a celestial envoy, or being from Taoist cosmology. But this too runs into problems. Most Taoist motifs involving deities or immortals come much later in the Han Dynasty and beyond. In the Zhou era, religious iconography remained conservative, rooted in ancestor worship and earth-heaven dualities. The most speculative and certainly the most sensational theory is that the figurine is evidence of ancient contact with extraterrestrial life. The UFO-shaped crown, the emotionless eyes, and the ceremonial pose all fuel the imaginations of ancient alien theorists. Could this be a memory, stylized into clay, of something seen in the sky, or a figure who descended from above? There is another possibility. Perhaps this figurine was never meant to represent the Zhou world at all. Perhaps it was an intentional departure, a prophetic vision, a symbolic act, or even a satire. Ancient artists, like their modern counterparts, were not always bound by realism. They imagined, they blended, they dreamed. Could the disc-like crown represent something else entirely, a halo of divine knowledge, a platform for spiritual communication, an early abstract symbol for the mandate of heaven, the Zhou's divine right to rule? If so, its meaning was lost as quickly as it was created, leaving behind only a shape that sparks recognition in our modern, UFO-obsessed minds. But without a second figurine, without context, without inscriptions, we are left with only questions. The figurine's face does not help settle the debate. It is expressionless, with wide circular eyes and a closed mouth. The features are minimal but deliberate. It does not resemble typical Zhou statuary, which often featured stylized beards, clear social markers, and proportionate faces. Instead, this figure appears alien. Not extraterrestrial perhaps, but other, different, removed. Its posture, hands pressed together at the abdomen, body erect, suggests ritual meditation or reverence. Is it a priest, a spirit, a dream? Some scholars suggest it may represent a shaman, a figure who bridges the worlds of the seen and the unseen. If so, perhaps the disc-shaped crown was never meant to be physical, but metaphorical, a halo of perception, a symbol of opening the sky. But again, this is conjecture. The Zhou had shamans, yes, but they did not document them like later dynasties, and nothing we've found before or since features this type of attire or iconography. In the end, the Zhou dynasty figurine wearing a UFO crown remains exactly what it appears to be: an outlier, a question mark cast in bronze, a relic whose silence speaks louder than any text. In the absence of explanation, it invites imagination. It stands at the crossroads between archaeology and myth, between hard science and wonder. Whether it is a remnant of a lost ritual, a forgotten culture, or a deliberate mystery, it continues to inspire. Perhaps that is its true function, not to answer, but to awaken curiosity. Because sometimes what's most important in history is not what we know, but what we can't explain. Amidst the endless grasslands where no human footprints remain, where the wind howls across a forgotten land, a massive circle of stone quietly stands as if it were raised by a long-lost hand from thousands of years ago. No signs, no written records, and almost no one knows it exists. Yet from above, the structure sends chills down your spine. Gigantic megaliths arranged in a near-perfect circle with carefully placed standing stones at its center. The sight immediately brings to mind a world-famous monument on the other side of the planet, England's Stonehenge. But this one is different. It's in China, and it might be even more mysterious. You won't find it in history books. It's not on any heritage protection list. And yet this structure carries a design so precise, it feels as if it were built to speak with the sun, the moon, and the stars. And if the early theories are right, then perhaps the ancient people of Inner Mongolia understood astronomy far more deeply than we ever imagined. What do you think about a massive stone structure in the middle of the Chinese grasslands, arranged in a layout that mirrors Stonehenge's astronomical design? Could this be evidence of an ancient civilization never recorded in Chinese history? Or is it just a natural coincidence overinterpreted by the modern mind? Which theory do you lean toward, ancient astronomy or geological chance? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's explore together whether the past is really as simple as we once believed. Tucked away in the remote grasslands of Inner Mongolia, near China's northern frontier, lies a mysterious stone circle that has confounded observers and scholars alike. Far removed from modern settlements and deep within a windswept, untamed landscape, this structure emerges from the earth in the form of a near-perfect circle formed by large megalithic stones arranged with striking symmetry. At its center, one or more upright stones rise, invoking comparisons to ancient astronomical monuments. From above, the scene resembles Stonehenge, leading some researchers to nickname it the Inner Mongolian Stonehenge. Yet unlike its British counterpart, this structure remains largely unstudied, undocumented, and shrouded in ambiguity. What makes it truly compelling is its detachment from any known Chinese dynastic or agricultural civilizations. It shows no signs of Shang or Zhou influence, no inscriptions, and no recognized religious symbols. Its style and isolation suggest it may have been created by a prehistoric nomadic group people who, despite lacking written language or monumental architecture, somehow achieved a level of spatial awareness and cosmological alignment that modern archaeologists still struggle to explain. The deeper we examine this megalithic structure, the more it reveals a logic far beyond simple placement. These stones are not scattered by chance, they follow a clear, deliberate geometry. Aerial surveys and ground-level photography show that the circle is carefully divided into angular segments reminiscent of a sundial or compass rose. This symmetry is not merely aesthetic, it appears to serve a purpose. At several key points, pairs of upright stones form what researchers call stone gateways, and remarkably, some of these are aligned with astonishing precision directly toward the point on the horizon where the sun rises on the summer solstice and where it sets on the winter solstice. Such alignment suggests not just awareness of seasonal cycles, but a functional understanding of solar movement. Even more intriguing, certain stone pairs also seem to align with the Orion constellation, a celestial marker that has held sacred significance for ancient civilizations across the globe. Could this circle have been an ancient calendar, a solar lunar compass, or a primitive observatory? If so, it implies a level of astronomical knowledge far more advanced than we've ever attributed to prehistoric nomads. One of the most remarkable aspects of this circular stone structure is its astonishing geometric precision, achieved without the aid of any modern measuring tools. No compass, no satellite imagery, no laser equipment, yet the stones form a nearly perfect circle with only minimal deviation. The spacing between the stones is not random. Rather, it appears to be evenly divided, according to a clear geometric logic, almost as if the builders were using a polar coordinate system. This raises a profound question. How did ancient people accomplish such precision? A bold hypothesis suggests that the builders may have used sunlight shadows and the position of the full moon to determine cardinal directions, then divided the space using light lines, a technique also found in ancient civilizations like Egypt, Babylon, and even among pre-Andean cultures. But it doesn't stop there. Some stone placements may mark long-term astronomical cycles, such as the 18.6-year lunar nodal cycle, a phenomenon also observed at ancient observatories like Nabta Playa in Egypt and Stonehenge in England. This leads to a stunning possibility. Could a prehistoric, non-literate culture in Inner Mongolia have observed, remembered, and constructed monuments to track astronomical events spanning decades? What makes the circular stone structure in Inner Mongolia even more mysterious is the fact that no official archaeological excavation has ever been conducted. There has been no carbon dating, no historical records, so the true age of the structure can only be inferred from natural evidence, such as the degree of weathering sediment buildup and the growth of ancient moss. These clues suggest that the structure may have existed for thousands of years, possibly dating back to the late Neolithic period. Some local archaeologists theorize that it could be contemporaneous with ancient Bronze Age cultures of Western Asia, such as the Afanasyevo or Andronovo nomadic communities that migrated from Central Asia into Inner Mongolia, bringing early knowledge of metallurgy and astronomy. However, what's particularly strange is that no traces of permanent settlement have been found nearby. No dwellings, no burial sites, no tools. This has led many to suspect that the stone circle was not a place of habitation, but rather a temporary ceremonial center used by nomadic tribes, possibly for seasonal gatherings, sacrificial rituals, or celestial observations similar to the function of stone circles found across prehistoric Europe. Despite its significance, the site is not listed among China's protected archaeological heritage. It has no fencing, no signage, and is entirely absent from official tourism programs. Some stones have already been shifted, possibly by strong winds, sand erosion, or unintentional human interference. The silence from academic institutions in China has led many international researchers to wonder, are there still secrets buried in the vast and forgotten landscapes of Inner Mongolia? From a scientific perspective, if this Inner Mongolian stone circle truly functioned as an astronomical tool, and if it was built using primitive mathematical knowledge, then it might be evidence that prehistoric Asian societies once held a sophisticated cosmic worldview rivaling that of the Egyptians or ancient Britons. It may have served not only as a sacred site, but also as a solar-lunar calendar, a celestial compass, a mechanism for connecting humans with the universe. The deeper we explore structures like this, the more we must ask, are the things we've labeled primitive truly so simple, or are they just the visible fragments of a vast, forgotten world of ancient knowledge? What do you think? If this is indeed an ancient astronomical observatory, could it be a relic of a civilization that left no written record behind? Do you believe ancient humans without modern technology may have understood the cosmos more deeply than we assume today? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. High above the clouds, the sandstone towers of Zhangjiajie rise like the broken spires of an ancient forgotten kingdom. These surreal peaks veiled in drifting mist have stirred imaginations for centuries, inspiring myths, legends, and even the otherworldly landscapes of the movie Avatar. But while the world gazes upward at these towering monoliths, some believe the true secret of Zhangjiajie lies far below. Hidden beneath the stone forest may rest one of the greatest enigmas of our time, a vast underground city, ancient beyond recorded memory, carved into the very bones of the earth. Strange caverns, unnatural formations, and geometric patterns found deep within the mountains have led some to wonder, did a lost civilization once thrive here? Beneath the mountains, no one dared to enter. And if so, why is there not a single word about it in any historical record? The silence of history may not be accidental. It may be the loudest clue of all. But what do you think? Could these strange formations be the work of nature, or evidence of a lost civilization buried beneath the surface? If ancient people really built a city here, why would history erase them? Drop your theories in the comments. We want to hear what you believe. This theory has gained attention due to a number of geological anomalies and unexplained structures found in and around the Zhangjiajie region. Deep inside certain sandstone formations are cave networks that defy conventional understanding of natural erosion. While sandstone is not the hardest rock, it typically weathers in irregular patterns. However, several caves in Zhangjiajie display unnaturally smooth walls, symmetrical layouts, and even step-like terraces that appear to have been carved by intelligent hands rather than by wind or water. Geologists have struggled to explain these anomalies. In some cases, the walls of the caves are nearly vertical and display flat ceilings, a feature rarely seen in natural caverns, especially in this type of rock. Even more striking are geometric indentations that suggest the use of tools, rectangular niches, cross-hatched grooves, and polished surfaces that do not occur naturally. Some sections resemble passageways or chambers, as if they were once inhabited or used for specific purposes. The strange discoveries in Zhangjiajie, from unnaturally smooth cave walls to markings that appear carved, have led some researchers and independent investigators to propose a bold hypothesis. Could an ancient civilization have once existed and lived underground here? While it may sound like science fiction, the idea is not entirely far-fetched when we consider human history. From the vast underground cities stretching for kilometers in Cappadocia, Turkey, to the catacombs and tunnels beneath Paris and Rome, ancient people clearly possessed the capability to construct complex subterranean spaces for shelter, worship, or concealment. So why couldn't China, with its thousands of years of civilizational depth, harbor a similar network, possibly one even older than recorded history itself? And this brings us to the most haunting and perplexing aspect of the entire mystery. There is no historical record, none whatsoever, that even hints at the existence of any ancient city or settlement beneath Zhangjiajie. In China, a nation known for its meticulous and vast historical records, the complete absence of any documentation related to these underground structures is startling. Chinese dynasties dating back millennia kept detailed chronicles of their architecture, cities, conquests, and religious practices. From the Great Wall to the Terracotta Army, historical accounts have always served as the foundation for archaeological discovery. But in the case of Zhangjiajie, not a single ancient scroll, imperial edict, or local folklore explicitly mentions any underground city or human construction beneath the sandstone towers. This silence is deafening. It raises two profound possibilities. The first, these underground structures were never known to historical Chinese civilization. They could have been built by a prehistoric culture that existed long before recorded history began, perhaps during a time when oral traditions had not yet evolved into written script, or before the region became part of any centralized kingdom. If true, this would make the Zhangjiajie underground city older than any known Chinese city, perhaps even rivaling the Neolithic settlements of Banpo or Jiahu. The second possibility is more provocative, that the structures were deliberately omitted or erased from history. Could they have served a purpose that conflicted with prevailing beliefs or ideologies? Were they considered taboo, sacred, or forbidden to mention? While speculative, such theories have precedent. Throughout history, there have been instances where rulers have censored knowledge they deemed dangerous or heretical. Entire dynasties have rewritten history to suit their legacy. But what if the truth was simply too strange to be accepted? Local legends, though vague, do hint at the mysterious nature of Zhangjiajie. Villagers speak of people of the sky or spirits in the mountain, stories passed down for generations. These tales mention hidden places beneath the rocks, voices echoing from within, and even warnings to never disturb the heart of the mountain. While these are often dismissed as folklore, they align eerily with the physical anomalies being discovered by modern researchers. Several independent expeditions equipped with ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping technology have reported unusual readings beneath some cliff bases. In certain locations, voids appear in patterns that resemble corridors or large chambers. Yet due to the region's status as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and national park, access is strictly limited. Exploration is slow, and no official excavation has ever been allowed. Is this caution due to environmental preservation, or is there a deeper reason why the subterranean world of Zhangjiajie remains untouched? One of the most compelling reasons the theory of an underground city beneath Zhangjiajie holds weight lies in the region's unique and highly strategic terrain. With sheer cliffs, dense primeval forests, and isolated plateaus, Zhangjiajie forms a perfect natural fortress, the kind of place any ancient civilization might choose to escape destruction or hide from the outside world. Not only is it extremely difficult to access, but the area also offers underground water sources, deep cave systems, a stable climate, and natural vegetative cover, meeting all the conditions necessary for long-term subterranean survival. The towering stone pillars may have once served as watchtowers or spiritual markers, suggesting that this entire landscape may have been deliberately chosen, not discovered by chance. While the Great Pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge, and Göbekli Tepe have all challenged our understanding of prehistoric capabilities, Zhangjiajie may be China's missing piece in this global puzzle, a remnant of a forgotten world that predates the myths and dynasties we know. Yet without historical documentation, science is left chasing shadows. This absence of written record is not just a gap in knowledge, it is a doorway to questions that modern archaeology is only beginning to ask. If we accept the possibility that human civilization may have once thrived underground in Zhangjiajie, then we must also accept that our current timeline of history is incomplete. What lies beneath the stone towers may not just be tunnels and chambers, but the untold story of an ancient people lost to time and memory, their entire existence reduced to echoes in the rock. The mystery of an ancient underground city beneath Zhangjiajie continues to intrigue and divide experts. The geological evidence, the lack of historical accounts, and the location's isolation all point to something unusual, something that does not fit neatly into what we know. Is this merely a natural coincidence, or the greatest archaeological secret yet to be uncovered in Asia? Until we can explore freely, the truth will remain hidden in stone. But one thing is certain: when history goes silent, mystery begins to speak. In a forgotten tomb beneath the soil of ancient China, buried under layers of history and silence, archaeologists uncovered not just the remains of a noble, but the remains of an idea. It wasn't gold, it wasn't jade, it was a map. Drawn delicately on silk over 2,000 years ago, this map challenges everything we thought we knew about the geography of the ancient world. Because it doesn't just depict the valleys and rivers of the Han heartland, it reaches far beyond. Past deserts, past mountains, past what history says they should have known. What if the people of Western Han China had imagined, or perhaps even known, the outlines of distant realms like India, Persia, or lands even further west? What if hidden in this tomb is evidence of a global vision born centuries before the age of exploration. This is not just a map, it is a mystery, a message across millennia, and perhaps a forgotten glimpse of the world as it once was, or as they believed it to be. What's your take on this ancient silk map? Do you think it's real geography or symbolic myth? Could people in ancient China really have had knowledge of lands as far as India or even Africa? Or is this just a funerary fantasy drawn more from imagination than fact? Drop your theories in the comments. Was this a true world map or a dream of one? Inside a noble tomb from the Western Han dynasty, believed to date back to the 2nd century BCE, archaeologists unearthed an artifact that stunned the academic world, a map painted on silk, astonishingly well preserved for over 2 millennia. The tomb, discovered in either Gansu or Sichuan, depending on the source, contained luxurious burial items such as lacquerware, silk textiles, and ceremonial weapon symbols of power and status. Yet far beyond material wealth, it was this silk painting, resembling an ancient world map, that sparked intense scholarly debate. This was no diagram of farmland or administrative regions as commonly seen in Han-era cartography. Instead, it represented a geographical vision, reaching beyond the borders of ancient China, raising the possibility that people of that time may have had, however vague or symbolic, a perception of a world far larger than previously recorded in history. The real mystery and the heart of this story lies in the scope of the map. Scholars quickly noticed that the depicted geography extended far beyond the heartland of Han China. Mountains, rivers, and coastlines were rendered in surprisingly coherent patterns. More astonishingly, some of the features appear to correspond roughly but unmistakably to regions that would today be identified as parts of India, the Persian Plateau, and Central Asia. In other words, this wasn't a China-centric diagram. This was a map with international awareness, a worldview far more expansive than we thought possible for a society in the 2nd century BCE. Some researchers even claim it hints at distant maritime regions with symbolic representations of oceans and possibly distant islands. This has led to jaw-dropping suggestions that ancient Chinese elites may have had conceptual knowledge of regions bordering Africa or the Middle East, or at least had heard tales of such lands through intermediaries like nomadic traders or Silk Road caravans. Imagine the implications. 2,000 years ago, someone in China held a vision of the Earth that extended far west, a global mindset before globalization. One of the most astonishing aspects of the Western Han silk map is the remarkable sophistication in cartographic thinking demonstrated in its every detail. Unlike symbolic religious or astrological diagrams commonly seen in ancient cultures, this map clearly reflects a deliberate effort to represent real spatial relationships between geographical features. Mountains are drawn with a consistent system of symbols, rivers follow natural directional flow, and territorial regions are arranged in a relatively accurate layout, not perfect by modern standards, of course, but far exceeding expectations for a map over 2,000 years old. Some scholars suggest that the map may have employed an early form of symbolic scale, intended to convey geographic distances or terrain complexity between different areas. In addition, signs of clear directional awareness, such as the arrangement of features aligned with the 4 cardinal directions east, west, south, and north, have led many to believe this could be a rudimentary form of coordinate system. All these factors combined make the map not only exceptional by the standards of ancient Asian cartography, but also potentially comparable to Greco-Roman maps in terms of structure and geographic ambition, suggesting a body of knowledge that was far from primitive and may even have been centuries ahead of its time. A key question arises: How could such an expansive geographical worldview have formed within ancient Chinese society? The answer likely lies in the early foundations of the Silk Road, which had already begun to take shape even before the famed missions of Zhang Qian in the 130s BCE. Although the fully established trade route would come later, during the Western Han period, there were already networks of knowledge goods exchange and oral legends flowing along nomadic paths crossing the Tian Shan Mountains and Central Asian steppes to link China with distant civilizations. It is highly probable that the creator of the Silk Map had never personally visited the lands depicted. Instead, they likely gathered fragmented bits of information from travelers, merchants, or diplomatic envoys, people who brought not just commodities, but also stories, second-hand descriptions, and imagined visions of lands beyond. Over time, mapmakers would have blended fact with imagination, merging observable elements with folklore and speculation. The result was a map that may not have been geographically accurate, but nonetheless represented a genuine effort to grasp what lay beyond the known world. In this way, the map served not merely as a navigational tool, but as a unique cultural artifact, reflecting not only what the people of the Han era knew, but also what they dared to imagine. Despite the excitement, not all scholars agree on the interpretation. Some believe the map is largely symbolic, representing spiritual or cosmological ideas rather than real geography. Others suggest it was a funerary object intended to guide the deceased through an imagined afterlife world. But even if the map was symbolic, the geographic logic embedded in it is hard to ignore. There's a difference between pure symbolism and organized spatial thinking. The latter points to an advanced conceptual framework for geography, a worldview that reached beyond rivers and provinces to embrace entire continents, real or imagined. If this really is a world map, then it precedes many other famous maps by centuries. It challenges the idea that ancient civilizations were locked in local bubbles of knowledge. It forces us to reconsider what Han Dynasty scholars might have known and what they were capable of imagining. More importantly, it suggests that global thinking is not a modern invention. Long before satellites or GPS, before Mercator projections or globes, there were humans who looked beyond their borders and tried to understand the shape of the Earth using ink silk and curiosity. What do you think? Could ancient Chinese cartographers really have had a working knowledge of regions beyond Asia? Was this truly a geographic map or a visionary blend of belief and knowledge? Is it a lost chapter in the history of cartography or simply an artifact of imagination? Whatever the case, this tomb and its silk map remind us of something timeless: the human desire to map the unknown, to chart what lies beyond, and to leave behind a picture of the world as we saw or dreamed it. In a rather unremarkable area of Guangdong Province, China, archaeologists and ancient technology researchers were stunned by a peculiar discovery: massive stone blocks, cut with astonishing precision, straight as a ruler, smooth as glass, and with edges so sharp and perfect that they seem to have been created by modern industrial machinery. This phenomenon has come to be known as the precision stone cuts at Baisha. But the real mystery lies not just in the cuts themselves. What truly confounds researchers is the fact that the location and cultural technical context are completely inconsistent with the level of craftsmanship the stones display. If Baisha truly lies in a region with no signs of an advanced civilization, yet shows evidence of precision, stoneworking far ahead of its time, what do you believe is the most plausible explanation? A long-lost technology, traces of a forgotten ancient civilization, or intervention by something not of this earth? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because you just might help solve one of history's most intriguing mysteries. One of the most perplexing aspects for researchers studying the ultra-precise stone cuts at Baisha lies in the cultural and geographical context of the site. Baisha is not part of any major civilization center known to history. It doesn't fall within the territories of advanced ancient civilizations such as Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, or even the central core of ancient Chinese civilization. Instead, it is a rural mountainous area regarded as having a relatively modest level of development within the broader landscape of human history. What's most striking is that there is absolutely no evidence suggesting this region ever possessed the level of technology or social organization necessary to produce such high-precision stonework. No signs of large-scale metallurgy, no remains of complex architectural systems, and no traces of stone, bronze, or iron tools used for cutting or shaping have been found. Everything is conspicuously absent. This void has led many archaeologists to conclude that, logically speaking, Baisha should not have been capable of producing these stone cuts. And if that's true, it raises an even deeper question. Could it be that a crucial piece of technological history has been completely overlooked or lost by mainstream narratives? The stone blocks at Baisha exhibit craftsmanship so astonishing that even modern engineers are taken aback. Many of the cuts are deep, uniform, and perfectly straight, as if made with a laser measuring device. The surfaces are smooth and flat, to the point of reflecting light, something nearly impossible to achieve with ancient hand tools. Most strikingly, some of the corners form near-perfect right angles, and several grooves maintain a consistent width with deviations of less than a millimeter tolerances comparable to modern industrial machining standards. Mechanical engineers who have analyzed the images have openly stated these appear to be the result of high-pressure water jet cutting, or perhaps even laser technology. The real question is, if no industrial machinery existed at the time, then who created these cuts? And how, during an era that hadn't even discovered electricity? The most striking anomaly at Baisha isn't just the astonishing precision of the stone cuts, but the fact that they appear completely isolated, with no signs of supporting technical development or societal infrastructure. Unlike sites such as Pumapunku in Bolivia or Sacsayhuaman in Peru, where at least there are traces of a stoneworking tradition or evidence of large-scale social organization, Baisha is utterly empty. There are no metal tools, no signs of specialized labor systems, and no archaeological indicators that this place ever developed stone-cutting technologies. It stands as a technical oasis in a prehistoric desert, entirely out of place and without explanation. This isolation has led archaeologists to ask a deeper question: is Baisha a forgotten remnant of something greater, or could it be a sign that human history is still missing an important chapter? In the face of the implausibly precise stone cuts found at Baisha, many independent scholars and researchers outside mainstream academia have been compelled to ask bold questions. If we rule out the idea that these are the products of primitive tools, then could we be looking at the remaining evidence of a prehistoric civilization that has completely vanished, leaving behind nothing but traces of advanced stoneworking techniques? Another hypothesis suggests that ancient humans may have once possessed technologies now completely lost to history, not due to a lack of intelligence, but because of disruptions in historical continuity, such as wars, natural disasters, or extinction events. Among proponents of fringe research, Baisha has even been cited as a potential piece of evidence supporting the ancient astronaut theory, the idea that extraterrestrial beings may have intervened in human history, leaving behind technological imprints far beyond the capabilities of early societies. While mainstream science largely dismisses such theories as speculative or unscientific, they continue to captivate public interest, especially among those who believe that human history is far more complex than the simplified narratives found in textbooks. Although the stone cuts at Baisha have sparked much controversy and inspired a range of bold hypotheses, no official scientific study has yet been published with rigorous analysis or verifiable data. No research team has employed electron microscopy to examine the microstructure of the cuts. No 3D reconstructions have been attempted to simulate the manufacturing process, and there is a complete absence of geochemical analysis or radiometric dating to determine the true age of the stones. While similar sites in South America or the Middle East have received widespread academic attention, Baisha remains largely overlooked. This lack of investment, lack of focus, and lack of data has turned Baisha into a forgotten enigma buried within the folds of history. Could Baisha be a misplaced puzzle piece in the grand story of human history, a detail that doesn't quite fit, that clashes with the orderly timeline we've long accepted as truth? The existence of ultra-precise stone cuts in a region lacking any known technical foundation forces us to ask, is the past more complex than what our textbooks suggest? Perhaps in the interest of clarity and simplicity, history has been overly streamlined, editing out inconvenient anomalies like Baisha from the mainstream narrative. And Baisha is not alone. Similar impossible structures have been found across the globe, from the massive stones of Nan Madol to the submerged architecture of Yonaguni and the giant geoglyphs of the Nazca Plateau. Yet while these sites have gradually gained recognition and scholarly attention, Baisha remains quietly forgotten, modest, hidden, and still misunderstood for its true significance. Buried deep beneath the fertile alluvial soil of the Huai River Plain, once the cradle of many ancient civilizations, in central China, archaeologists have uncovered one of the most bizarre and puzzling structures ever recorded, a trench over 1 kilometer long, carved with uncanny straightness, with flat surfaces and nearly perfect right-angled edges cutting through the earth, as if it were made by a modern engineer wielding precision machinery. But this is no modern project. All evidence suggests it has lain dormant underground for several thousand years, possibly as old as 4,000 years, meaning it predates even the earliest dynasties of ancient China, and certainly any civilization in the region known to have mechanical capabilities. What do you think this structure was? If a perfectly straight trench, stretching for kilometers, had been lying silently underground for thousands of years, what would you guess it was meant for? Share your thoughts in the comments. A massive structure with no known purpose. Is it a mistake of history or a trace of something beyond our current understanding? One of the most baffling aspects of the kilometer-long trench in the Huai River Plain lies not in its sheer scale, but in what's completely missing any trace of the tools or methods used to create it. In most ancient structures of comparable size, archaeologists routinely uncover stone chisels, bronze implements, or at least tool marks etched into the working surfaces. But here, along the entire length of this trench, stretching over a kilometer through layers of compact earth and hardened clay, there are no broken tools, no metal shards, no debris from labor, not even crude scratch marks. The absence is not just unusual, it's virtually unprecedented. What's more, the internal walls of the trench are astonishingly smooth, with surfaces that appear intentionally flattened and aligned. In several segments, researchers found that the trench edges run nearly laser straight, deviating by less than 2 degrees over hundreds of meters. The width and depth remain remarkably consistent, almost as if the trench were cut using a modern machine or guided by high-precision measurements. But this raises a profound dilemma. Such accuracy is far beyond the capabilities of Stone Age or Bronze Age societies, especially when lacking iron tools, surveying equipment, or written engineering knowledge. So if no tools remain, and no known technology could produce such results, the question lingers, how was it made at all? Perhaps even more puzzling than the trench itself is what surrounds it: absolutely nothing. Despite extensive surveys and excavations, archaeologists have found no trace of ancient habitation in the vicinity. There are no shards of pottery, no stone tools, no evidence of dwellings, no burial sites, not even the most basic indicators of human activity. The land around the trench appears sterile from a historical standpoint, as if it was deliberately avoided or forgotten. This is especially strange given that the region lies not far from major Neolithic cultural hubs like Longshan and Dawenku. Yet the trench is completely disconnected from them physically and culturally. How could such a massive construction emerge in isolation, with no community to build it, no signs of those who used it, and no purpose left behind? Among all the strange features of the trench, perhaps the most bewildering is this: no one knows why it was built. The purpose of this massive kilometer-long structure remains a complete enigma, defying every category archaeologists use to understand ancient constructions. Could it have been an irrigation canal? Unlikely. It connects to no major water sources, shows no signs of branching out to agricultural zones, and lacks sediment layers typically found in ancient water channels. Perhaps a military fortification, but there are no surrounding walls, no defensive mounds, and most importantly, no evidence of nearby settlements that would justify the need for protection. A territorial boundary marker, then, yet its construction is far too precise, deep, and labor-intensive to serve merely symbolic or administrative purposes. Some have floated the idea of an astronomical or ritual alignment, but precise measurements show it fails to match any known solstice angles, lunar paths, or cardinal directions typically used by ancient cultures. Its orientation appears arbitrary, or perhaps guided by a logic we no longer understand. In the face of such contradictions, many scholars have reached a humbling conclusion: we simply do not know what this trench was meant for. And in that uncertainty lies its power, a silent, unmoving monument to everything we have yet to uncover about humanity's forgotten past. Faced with a structure so massive, yet so detached from all known patterns of ancient life, scholars have begun to explore bolder, more speculative theories, not out of preference, but from necessity. Some propose the trench might have been part of a forgotten ceremonial complex, perhaps tied to a lost spiritual system that left behind no temples, idols, or myths. Others suggest it could be an ancient ley line designed to channel energy or mark invisible boundaries, much like those hypothesized in prehistoric Europe. Even more controversially, a few thinkers outside the mainstream have proposed it was a prehistoric transit route, or perhaps even the last surviving trace of an unknown civilization, one erased from history by time or catastrophe. None of these ideas have concrete archaeological backing, yet paradoxically, none can be definitively ruled out either. In the absence of better answers, the trench remains a gaping question mark, a void in our historical map, demanding humility more than certainty. For thousands of years, the trench lay buried beneath layers of farmland, completely unnoticed by generations who lived and worked above it. It wasn't until the advent of satellite imaging and high-resolution LiDAR scanning that its perfect linear form began to emerge from the earth like a long-forgotten scar. When researchers reconstructed the trench in 3D, they were shocked by its precision, straight lines, uniform depth, unnatural regularity. But even after careful excavation, no markings, inscriptions, or associated artifacts have been found. No myths, no records, no oral traditions recall its presence. It is as if the trench was built in silence and immediately abandoned, erased from both memory and meaning. Today, the kilometer-long engraved trench in the Huai River Plain still lies in place, silent, isolated, and perfectly straight. It stands as a humbling reminder that we do not know everything about our past. Perhaps buried beneath the earth are forgotten ideas, unrecorded efforts, and messages from civilizations never named. When we encounter such structures, science is not a tool to declare certainty, but a discipline of humility, accepting the vastness of what we've yet to understand. High in the shadows of the Himalayas, where the wind carries prayers and secrets alike, lies a mystery no one has been able to decode. Not carved, not painted, not even visible unless the light touches it just right. Scattered across remote corners of Tibet are stones that appear utterly blank, until a beam of sunlight reveals something astonishing: intricate symbols glowing faintly on their surfaces. Symbols that disappear as quickly as they came, leaving behind no trace and no explanation. But the strangest part, these markings match no language, no religion, no culture, not Tibetan, not Sanskrit, not Egyptian, not anything. It's as if the earth is whispering in a language of light, and we've only just begun to notice. If you've ever encountered symbols like these, or have a theory about their origin, share your thoughts in the comments below. Could this be an ancient message, or a warning about something still hidden? Since the early 20th century, during expeditions into the remote mountains of Tibet, monks and explorers have reported a strange phenomenon. Certain stone surfaces that appeared completely smooth and featureless would suddenly reveal faint markings when struck by a narrow beam of late afternoon sunlight. In those fleeting moments, ghostly symbols emerged: circles, spirals, symmetrical lines, as if etched by light itself. But the instant the angle of the light shifted even slightly, the markings vanished entirely, as though they had never existed. No one could provide a satisfying explanation. Decades later, scientists used high-powered lamps capable of adjusting angle, wavelength, and color, and the results were identical. The symbols appeared only under extremely specific lighting conditions, as if an optical key was unlocking a hidden layer embedded within the stone's surface. A forgotten layer of memory waiting to be awakened by light that knows the code. One of the most hotly debated aspects of the light-only symbols in Tibet is the fact that they show no signs of being carved, etched, or painted using any known physical technique. When researchers examined the stones using electron microscopes, high-resolution 3D scanners, and advanced surface analysis technology, the results were astonishing. The entire surface of the stones was perfectly smooth, showing no scratches, cuts, abrasions, engravings, coatings, or any form of mechanical alteration. This means that these symbols were not created by hand with tools or through any known chemical process. Some physicists have proposed a bold theory that the internal crystal structure of the stone may have been reorganized at the nanoscale, causing it to reflect light differently depending on the viewing angle, much like how butterfly wings produce color through structural interference rather than pigment. However, even this theory remains unproven, as no significant structural anomalies have been detected in the analyzed stone samples. One of the most mysterious aspects of the light-only symbols in Tibet is that they do not appear randomly or in isolation. On the contrary, the same types of symbols, such as double spirals, concentric circles, axis-based symmetrical patterns, or eye-like shapes, have been discovered on multiple stone surfaces across regions separated by tens or even hundreds of kilometers. This repetition suggests a clear intentionality, raising a major question: who created them and for what purpose? Interestingly, while some of these designs bear a superficial resemblance to meditative mandalas in Buddhism, none of the symbols fully match any known mandala systems or sacred geometric frameworks. Some of the markings display a level of geometric precision that is nearly perfect, something extremely difficult to achieve without advanced measuring tools. This only deepens the mystery and makes theories about their ancient origins even more vague and challenging to validate. Even stranger when exposed to different wavelengths of light, such as ultraviolet or infrared, some symbols vanish completely, while others transform into different shapes. This suggests a kind of adaptability, an optical reaction never before documented in ancient stonework. It has led some to propose bold theories. Could this be evidence of ancient light manipulation technology, or even some form of artificially encoded intelligence embedded in stone? One of the most confounding aspects for scholars studying the light-only symbols of Tibet is that they do not match any known system of language writing or symbolic representation in recorded human history. After years of analysis and cross-referencing, no linguist, symbologist, or historian has found a complete match between these symbols and any ancient manuscript or cultural script, whether from Tibet, China, India, Mesopotamia, ancient Mesoamerica, or any other prehistoric civilization. They are not Sanskrit, not classical Chinese. They don't align with Bond script or Tibetan Buddhist symbols. Nor are they Egyptian hieroglyphs, Sumerian cuneiform, or any recognized proto-writing system. Even abstract systems like alchemical signs, astrological glyphs, or sacred geometry show only superficial resemblances, and deeper analysis of proportion, structure, and usage context reveals stark differences. Some bold researchers have proposed that if these are indeed a form of communication, then they may originate from an entirely lost civilization, or perhaps even represent a non-verbal mode of thought, one that uses light in place of language. A form of transmitting meaning that the human mind today may not yet be capable of grasping or decoding. Inevitably, this leads to extraordinary theories. Extraterrestrial hypothesis. Some believe the symbols are markers or navigation guides left by an alien intelligence using optical cues rather than sound or carved markings to communicate. Lost advanced technology. Others suggest that the symbols were produced by a now-vanished civilization with the ability to encode light-responsive patterns into stone, a technology now beyond human reach. Spiritual energy imprint. Some Tibetan monks interpret the symbols as emanations, imprints left behind by higher states of consciousness or spiritual beings, visible only to those attuned to certain frequencies of awareness. Whatever their origin and whatever purpose they served, the light-only symbols of Tibet challenge our deepest assumptions about the past. They suggest that entire systems of knowledge and communication may have existed, but in forms we've never imagined, forms that require light to reveal themselves, and perhaps a shift in perception to truly understand. We may be standing before a language of light, undocumented, uncarved, unreadable in the traditional sense, a kind of ancient memory encoded in stone, activated only when the timing and illumination are just right. And that leads us to wonder, could Earth still hold messages meant for us, but only visible when we learn to see with the right kind of light? Beneath the fog-drenched canopy of India's northeastern rainforests, where sunlight barely pierces the moss-laden trees, something ancient stands silently waiting. Towering like sentinels in the mist, these upright columns appear to be stone until you touch them and feel the fibrous texture of root. Not carved, not planted, and yet they rise in perfect formation, humming with echoes of any sound made nearby. Villagers call them the ears of the forest, a name whispered with reverence. But to scientists baffled by their existence, they are a riddle wrapped in bark and silence, the echo root pillars of eastern India. What do you think about these mysterious echo pillars? Could this be a natural biological phenomenon or the remnants of a long-lost ancient technology? Share your thoughts in the comments below. At first glance, many would mistake these towering pillars for the result of geological forces, natural stone formations rising from the earth. However, upon approaching and touching their surfaces, a startling truth emerges. They are not stone, but hardened tree roots that extend from deep underground and connect seamlessly to the trunks of living trees above. Each root column stands between 2 and nearly 4 meters tall, with a diameter of about 20–30 centimeters. The base is buried firmly in the ground, while the upper end wraps around ancient trees still thriving in the forest. Some roots twist gently, spiraling like a screw, while others rise perfectly vertical like the columns of a forgotten temple. What's most intriguing is that no two roots are alike. Each one seems to possess its own distinct geometry, a unique design far beyond the usual diversity seen in natural plant growth. This is a phenomenon that defies explanation by mere observation. The acoustic phenomenon in this area truly exceeds all expectations. A simple clap or a soft whistle is enough for the sound to echo back clearly and directionally, as if you were standing inside a sealed cave or under an acoustic dome. In field experiments conducted by a research team from the University of Natural Sciences in Calcutta, they recorded anomalous levels of resonance with echoes lasting over 2 seconds and exhibiting distinct frequency variations. Especially at night, the effect becomes surreal. Even the faintest sounds, like footsteps or rustling leaves, are amplified, creating the eerie sensation that the forest is whispering something back. Local villagers believe this place not only transmits sound, but also remembers what you say, and then responds if you know how to listen. This is more than a natural anomaly. It carries a deeply spiritual and sacred quality. This is the detail that has driven scientists into a mix of skepticism and ore root samples taken from these echo pillars do not match any known plant species recorded in India, Asia, or even the global botanical databases. Under a microscope, their structure exhibits both typical plant cellulose and signs of molecular restructuring into crystalline networks similar to fossilization, yet not fully fossilized. Certain segments of the roots contain unusually high silica content, giving them a hardness comparable to granite, all while maintaining the rough exterior typical of tree roots. This leads researchers to wonder, could this be an entirely unknown species of tree, or the result of deep subterranean biological transformation under conditions never previously recorded? A bold hypothesis was proposed by Dr. Shyam Devra, a paleobotany specialist from New Delhi. These roots may be remnants of an ancient species that has survived for millions of years, only thriving in extremely rare microbiological environments, perhaps in soil containing mineral-transforming bacteria, or in highly alkaline groundwater that triggers selective hardening of plant cells. Any theory suggesting human involvement in the formation or arrangement of these root columns is quickly dismissed. There are no signs of carving, no tool marks, and no evidence of any artificial modification on the surface of the roots. Yet what astonishes scientists is the near-perfect alignment of the root pillars. Many grow perpendicular to the ground and seem to correspond precisely with natural acoustic interference points in the area. This unexpected correlation led one archaeologist to exclaim, "It feels as if we're standing inside a form of natural bioarchitecture where life and sound coexist according to an intentional design." For local tribes like the Khasi and Apatani, this is not just a natural feature, it is a sacred space. They believe that ancestors can send messages through the roots, and that the forest itself is the ear of the heavens. For generations, they have never cut trees in this zone, nor made loud noises. Ceremonies here are performed in whispers, eyes closed, listening for the forest to reply. Folk tales speak of children who went missing, but heard their mother's voice calling them back, despite her being dozens of miles away. This spiritual belief isn't about explanation, it's about living with the forest as a sentient being. Several international research teams have begun conducting on-site investigations in these forests of eastern India, equipped with advanced tools such as LiDAR, acoustic resonance sensors, and non-invasive biological analysis systems. Among the various hypotheses proposed, one prominent idea suggests that this phenomenon is the result of a symbiotic relationship between tree roots and mineralizing bacteria, which alters the cellulose structure and causes a partial hardening effect. Others lean toward the theory of a natural resonance between soil trees and the atmosphere, prompting root growth along paths of acoustic diffusion, unintentionally creating echo effects. Some biologists have proposed that these structures may be the last living remnants of an ancient extinct plant species, surviving only within an extremely specialized micro-ecosystem, one that cannot be replicated in a laboratory setting. However, none of these theories can fully account for the phenomenon, especially the complete genetic and biological divergence found in the structure of these roots. Despite advanced technology and extensive lab testing, the echo root pillars remain an open mystery. No clear species identification, no definitive explanation for their hardened roots, and no satisfying answer to the unique sound behavior of the forest. In the age of scientific breakthroughs, perhaps it is the silence and the echoes within that remind us how much nature still holds beyond our understanding. Buried deep beneath the scorched hills south of Marrakech lies a structure that defies every expectation. No inscriptions, no relics, no treasure. Just a vault, sealed, fortified, and eerily empty. Archaeologists call it the Coinless Vault. For one simple reason: though it looks exactly like an ancient treasury, complete with thick stone walls, air-sealed corridors, and secretive compartments, there's not a single coin inside. Not even a hint of what it once held or was meant to guard. It has no name in historical records, no cultural fingerprint, no clue as to its builders. And yet it stands silent, untouched, and impossibly advanced for its time. So, what was this vault for? And perhaps more disturbingly, what was taken out of it before we arrived? What do you think? If this structure doesn't belong to any known civilization and its engineering is centuries ahead of its time, are we facing a hidden chapter of history, or are we simply not wise enough yet to understand? Share your theory in the comments. Who knows, you might just hold the key to unlocking this ancient mystery. The outer appearance of the Coinless Vault immediately evokes the idea of an ancient treasury. The structure is fully underground, with a narrow entrance hidden behind large slabs of stone. The inner chambers are connected by tight, angular corridors resembling anti-theft or defensive designs. However, despite thorough excavations and ground-penetrating radar scans, GPR, no evidence of stored items was ever found. All they uncovered were dry, dusty, empty rooms with perfectly cut stone floors and no signs of human activity or storage use. One early theory suggested it could have been a storage site for grain or military supplies in ancient times, but there were no remnants of fire pit seeds, containers, or wheel tracks, nor any transport equipment. If this was indeed a vault, it never held any goods. One of the most perplexing aspects of the coinless vault is its complete detachment from any known culture or historical timeline. In conventional archaeology, determining the origin of an ancient structure relies heavily on contextual clues such as fragments of pottery tool, remnants burial, remains inscriptions, or stylistic elements tied to specific civilizations. But here, none of those exist. The walls are bare, devoid of writing or iconography. There are no motifs linking it to the Islamic dynasties, Berber tribes, Roman settlers, or Byzantine artisans, all of whom had presence in this region. Even microscopic scans and chemical analyses have failed to uncover organic residue or carbon-datable materials. This absence of cultural fingerprint places the vault in a unique category, a stateless anomaly. Some researchers have proposed that it may have been constructed by a fringe or isolated group with no connection to dominant civilizations, perhaps for private rituals, hidden activity, or purposes deliberately kept out of the historical record. In essence, it is a structure that physically exists but has no cultural past. This is perhaps the most astonishing aspect. When structural engineers and archaeological experts analyzed the building methods used in the vault, they uncovered features that were shockingly advanced, even centuries ahead of anything expected in ancient North Africa. The stone used features a hard outer shell, but a lighter, porous inner body, perfect for regulating interior temperature, keeping it cool during the day and warm at night. This kind of purposeful insulation is a relatively modern concept in construction, yet appears masterfully applied here. Some walls are reinforced with large stones, interlocked in a zigzag pattern, dispersing seismic energy, a principle used in modern earthquake-proof buildings. But historically, southern Marrakesh is not known for strong seismic activity, so why build it that way? The interior corridors are designed with uneven vaulted ceilings, effectively cancelling echoes. Such designs are usually seen in spaces that demand silence or confidentiality, such as recording studios, isolation cells, or clandestine laboratories. Massive stone blocks are joined without mortar, and the seams are so tight that not even a razor blade can fit between them. This level of precision is reminiscent of structures like Machu Picchu or Inca walls in Peru, wonders that still defy full explanation. Another unusual aspect lies in the internal layout of the vault, completely contrary to conventional architectural logic. Instead of a recognizable central chamber or main hall, the entire structure consists of narrow branches leading to small empty spaces arranged in a maze-like pattern with no clear endpoint. This spatial organization makes it unsuitable for storage, impractical for habitation, and uncharacteristic of ritual use. Some experts suggest that this structure was never meant to be used in the traditional sense, but rather served as an outer shell for a much larger system hidden beneath it. Some even speculate that what we see is only the uppermost level, a disguised entrance to an undiscovered underground network. A range of theories has been proposed to explain the purpose of the coinless vault, spanning from the practical to the mystical. The practical theory suggests it may have been an abandoned structure never completed or used, which would explain the absence of material remains. However, the meticulous craftsmanship, from carefully finished stone walls and precisely arched corridors to seamlessly connected chambers, contradicts this idea, as there are no signs of halted construction. Some ancient historians lean toward the possibility that it served symbolic or ceremonial purposes, potentially tied to religion, esoteric philosophy, or long-lost ritual practices. Meanwhile, more speculative theories propose that it could be a storage site for ancient technology, a hiding place for extraterrestrial remnants, or even a laboratory of a forgotten civilization that predates modern humanity. To this day, the coinless vault has not been formally published in major archaeological journals, partly due to the lack of concrete evidence, and partly because it raises too many unanswered questions. The site remains preserved for ongoing study. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this structure isn't what it holds, but how it was built like a physical manuscript from a forgotten era, offering tantalizing clues to stories that were never written down. Buried deep in the forgotten heart of Central Asia, amid wind-scoured cliffs and sun-bleached ruins, lies a riddle carved in stone. Not in any language you've ever seen, not in any alphabet known to mankind. These are the blind scripts of Bactria symbols, etched by hands long vanished into rocks that whisper of a lost intelligence. No one knows who wrote them. No one knows what they mean. And unlike any other ancient script, they don't resemble anything else on Earth, not even remotely. Some believe they were sacred codes. Others say they were never meant to be read by human eyes. But one truth remains. This script defies all attempts to understand it, and may be the last trace of a civilization we never even knew existed. What do you think about this mysterious script? Could it be the remnant of a long-lost civilization, or a trace of a communication system beyond our current understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Can humanity ever decode the blind script, or will it remain a buried enigma in the heart of Central Asia forever? The most astonishing aspect of the blind script is this: it does not match any known alphabet writing system or phonetic structure in recorded history. It's not like the Rongorongo script of Easter Island, which at least shows recurring geometric motifs or animal-like symbols. It's not like the undeciphered Linear A of Crete, which has structural links to Linear B. The blind script stands completely alone. Its symbols have recurring geometric shapes, but no consistent patterns. Some resemble spirals, hooks, crescents, or double curls, yet they cannot be grouped into consonants, vowels, or tones like conventional languages. Some symbols repeat frequently, but the contexts in which they appear are so variable that no internal logic can be deduced. Experts in historical linguistics, ancient scripts, and Central Asian languages have spent decades analyzing these symbols. They've compared them with Sanskrit, ancient Greek, Avestan, Aramaic, Kharosthi Brahmi, and even the Indus Valley scripts. Yet all efforts have hit a dead end. There is no Rosetta Stone equivalent for this language, no bilingual texts, no cultural references from neighboring civilizations. It's as if this script is a voice from an entirely isolated world. What makes the blind script of Bactria even more perplexing is the complete absence of any evolutionary trail. In every established writing system, we usually find primitive forms, early scratch marks, simplified glyphs, or transitional styles that help trace its development over time. But the blind script offers none of that. It seems to have emerged fully formed, complex, refined, and deliberate. No earlier versions, no drafts, no regional variants, just a polished system with no past. This sudden appearance challenges the fundamental understanding of how human writing evolves. Some scholars now question whether it was ever meant for practical communication at all. Could it have been a ritual language, a symbolic code for spiritual use, or something created with entirely different intentions from what we call writing? One particularly puzzling aspect of the blind script of Bactria is that it is not linked to any known culture that ever existed in the region. Bactria was once a vital crossroads of civilizations between East and West, heavily influenced by the Achaemenid Persian Empire, the Greco-Bactrian Kingdom, the Kushan Empire, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Yet none of these civilizations left behind any form of writing or artistic expression that resembles or parallels this mysterious script. The stone slabs bearing the blind script are often found in remote caves, high, inaccessible rock niches, or abandoned dry wells, and notably no accompanying artifacts have ever been discovered. No statues, no pottery, no illustrative carvings, and no bilingual inscriptions. Nothing to provide context or comparison. This complete isolation has led many researchers to believe that the blind script was never a language used in everyday communication, but rather a sacred code, possibly used for ritual purposes or employed only by a very small, secretive group, one that may have vanished entirely from the pages of history. The term blind not only reflects the modern inability to read the symbols, but also hints at the script's strange presentation. Some inscriptions are carved vertically, some in spirals, and many lines overlap with no clear reading direction. Certain symbols appear flipped or angled erratically, as if the carver did not need to see clearly to write. This has led to the theory that the blind script may not follow the conventional writer-reader relationship and might instead serve a more abstract or symbolic purpose. One of the most controversial yet fascinating theories surrounding the blind script of Bactria is this system of symbols ever truly meant to be read by humans? Several independent researchers have pointed out some highly unusual features. First, there are no signs of grammar word morphology or logical structure elements fundamental to any known human language. Second, there's no trace of syllabic patterns, alphabets, or numerical systems. These are entirely absent. Third, some symbols are built with intricate three-dimensional spiral forms, extremely difficult to carve into stone, using ancient tools, yet they appear repeatedly with near-perfect consistency. These peculiarities have led some to propose a bold hypothesis that the blind script may not be a human language at all. It could be a form of meditative encoding, a metaphysical symbol system, or even a medium of communication created by some non-human intelligence. Although such ideas remain outside mainstream academic acceptance due to lack of concrete evidence, one fact is undeniable: the blind script of Bactria remains completely unreadable, unclassifiable, and disconnected from any known linguistic system on Earth. The blind script is not just a linguistic mystery. It is a monument to the limits of human knowledge. Each stone inscribed with these enigmatic characters is a question without an answer. Who carved it? For what purpose? Why was it engraved on isolated stone surfaces rather than transmitted through more typical means? Oral stories, paintings, or formal scripts? And most haunting of all, could it be the last remaining trace of a lost civilization, one that left its final messages hidden in a language we may never be able to read? Hidden among the parched hills of northern Tunisia, far from rivers' fault lines or ancient ruins, lies a structure so strange it seems almost impossible. At first glance, it's just a massive limestone dome, but step closer and you'll discover the impossible: a perfectly hollowed-out core, carved from solid rock, as if some unknown force had scooped it clean and left behind an empty echo chamber beneath the earth. What do you think about this mysterious structure? Could it be a freak accident of geology or a lingering trace of a forgotten age of advanced knowledge? Share your theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you see in this strange and silent dome. One of the most bizarre features of the hollow stone dome in northern Tunisia lies in its very core, a massive block of limestone that appears completely solid, yet is mysteriously and perfectly hollowed out from within. From a distance, the dome resembles a natural rocky hill rising from the arid terrain, its pale ivory limestone reflecting the North African sun. But upon closer inspection, a narrow opening on the southern face reveals a shocking secret: the entire interior has been scooped clean, leaving a perfectly spherical void, completely empty, with inner surfaces so smooth they appear almost polished. There are no fractures, no stalactites, and no signs of karst erosion, features typically seen in natural limestone caves. The interior surface is so smooth that some experts have compared it to the inside of an egg, whose yolk has been completely sucked out, leaving only a hard outer shell. The hollow space has a radius of about 7 meters, large enough for 10 people to stand inside and still feel a sense of vast emptiness. Even more astonishing, there are no structural weaknesses, no signs of rock stress or collapse, meaning the entire stone mass retains its integrity despite having a large cavity carved inside, a fact that modern geology can scarcely explain with any known natural process. One of the most perplexing aspects of the hollow stone dome in northern Tunisia is the pattern of erosion found inside, completely contrary to natural expectations. When geologists scanned the interior walls using light sensors and microstructure measuring instruments, they detected clear signs that the rock had once been eroded. But instead of showing downward wear, as would be expected from typical processes involving water or wind, the erosion marks spread upward from the base of the dome. This suggests that if a liquid was involved, it didn't flow down from above. It may have been pumped up from below or generated by pressure from within the rock itself. There are no signs that water ever seeped from the top of the structure. This phenomenon of reverse erosion has led many experts to ask a troubling question. Could this be evidence of a completely unknown geological mechanism, or the long-lost remnants of an ancient technology now forgotten? One thing that has left scientists truly astonished is this: the stone dome has absolutely no natural entrance or connection to the surrounding geological layers. There are no ventilation shafts, no traces of underground water flow, and no links to any karst system, the typical terrain formed by water-eroded limestone. The surrounding rock appears intact with no fractures or collapses, making the entire dome seem as though it was placed into the earth in complete isolation. The hollow structure inside is not a leftover chamber from a collapsed cave system. It resembles a sealed architectural void, entirely closed off from the outside world. This total separation casts serious doubt on conventional geological explanations. If there was no water, no moving air, and no tectonic activity involved, then what or who created such a perfectly empty space inside solid rock? Another strange phenomenon inside the dome is the way sound echoes, unlike anything ever documented in a natural environment. When someone speaks, claps, or makes any noise inside, the echo doesn't just bounce once. It undergoes multiple layers of reflection, as if the sound is circling the chamber and returning from various directions. This effect creates the eerie sensation of standing inside a giant stone bell, where every sound is amplified and prolonged in an unusual way. Some archaeologists believe this phenomenon is not accidental, and if an ancient civilization once existed in the area, they might have discovered this unique acoustic property and used the dome as a space for rituals, chanting, or mysterious sound transmission. One of the most puzzling aspects of this hollow stone dome is that there are no historical records, folk legends, or religious texts that mention it, despite its highly visible location, proximity to ancient trade routes, and prominent appearance in the hilly terrain of northern Tunisia. Locals refer to it simply as the hollow stone. and most tend to avoid it, believing that the echoing sounds inside can leave a haunting effect on those who hear them. This total silence in the region's cultural memory has led many historians to propose bold theories. Either the dome is so ancient that it predates all known written records belonging to a time before writing itself, or it was once a secret site of ritual or technological significance deliberately erased from collective memory. The fewer who knew, the easier it was to keep it hidden. The combination of all these strange features, a perfectly hollow core inside a solid mass of rock, no natural point of entry, no connection to any known geological system, and bizarre acoustic effects, makes the water-hollowed dome of Tunisia a phenomenon that modern science still cannot fully explain. Researchers are divided into two distinct camps. Some believe it may be an extremely rare form of geological formation caused by intense calcium dissolution, triggered by acidic gases rising from deep within the earth. But others argue that a structure so symmetrical, so perfectly rounded and isolated, cannot be the result of random natural forces. To them, the dome might be a remnant of intentional design, a colossal question mark carved into stone, waiting for future generations to uncover its true purpose. Deep within the wild forests of northern Myanmar, where muddy trails cut through dense vegetation and layers of untouched earth stretch back millennia, a discovery has left archaeologists and artifact researchers stunned. Dozens of fired clay objects shaped like mechanical gears. Even more surprising, these weren't found near the surface, but buried deep underground, between 3 to 5 meters down, within the same strata as prehistoric stone tools and primitive ceramic shards. These clay gears aren't just visually unusual. They come with an even greater enigma. They're made from an extremely rare type of clay with a strange microcrystalline structure and abnormally high resistance to heat and pressure. What do you think about these clay gears? Could they be evidence of an ancient technology we have yet to understand? Or are they simply objects that just happen to resemble mechanical parts? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This mystery needs many perspectives to be unraveled. At first glance, many might assume these clay gears are nothing more than a modern hoax, perhaps industrial parts accidentally dropped or misplaced. Yet the more closely one examines them, the more doubt gives way to astonishment. These circular gears feature evenly spaced teeth with astonishing precision. Their diameters range from 10 to 30 centimeters. Some have round holes in the center resembling axle points. More remarkably, a few specimens even include grooves or internal notches, clearly mimicking paired gears designed to interlock and transfer motion. Such shapes are no coincidence. They strongly suggest intentional mechanical design. But the most shocking detail remains the material. Every piece is made of fired clay. No one would expect in a remote mountainous region with no signs of industry to find objects bearing the form of modern machinery crafted from a material traditionally associated with primitive pottery. What puzzles archaeologists the most is not just the bizarre gear-like shapes, but the fact that they don't match any known culture that ever existed in Myanmar. Throughout history, from the ancient Pew city-states to the pagan dynasty and the highland ethnic groups, no civilization has ever left behind symbols, artifacts, or motifs resembling mechanical gears. There are no murals, carvings, ritual objects, or folk tales referencing circular shapes with evenly spaced teeth. Moreover, the fact that these objects were buried alongside stone tools and coarse pottery strengthens the argument that they are not modern items accidentally mixed into the site. This cultural misfit deepens the mystery. If they don't belong to anyone who lived here, Then where did they come from? What truly astonished scientists was the strange nature of the clay material used to create these gears. When the samples were analyzed using electron microscopy and X-ray spectroscopy, results showed that the clay did not match any known soil or mineral samples from the discovery site, a major anomaly in archaeology. Its particle structure was extremely fine, approaching microcrystalline levels, granting it exceptional compression resistance and crack resistance far superior to typical clay materials. More notably, traces of the mineral mullite were detected, an element that only forms when clay is fired at extremely high temperatures over 1400 degrees Celsius, far beyond the capabilities of any traditional ceramic technology known in Southeast Asia. Furthermore, the surfaces of the gears showed signs of repeated thermal treatment, enhancing their hardness to a level comparable with modern technical ceramics. This raises a serious question. Could a culture with no known record of high-temperature kiln technology have produced material of such advanced quality? Some theories suggest these artifacts may have been brought from elsewhere through ancient trade routes, but this still fails to explain why they do not match any known design or cultural features anywhere in Southeast Asia. The greatest question posed by these clay gears lies not merely in their shape or material, but in the very meaning of their existence. The academic community remains deeply divided. One side argues that they could simply be clay toys or basic utilitarian objects, with their gear-like appearance being purely coincidental. According to this view, ancient humans often created strange shapes without functional purpose, and these clay gears might just be another example of such creativity. However, the opposing side, including fringe researchers, insists that this cannot be a coincidence. The geometric symmetry, the remarkable precision in the gear teeth, and the clay's extraordinary durability all point to a deliberate design far beyond the known capabilities of traditional civilizations in the region. Some even pose a bolder hypothesis. Could these be remnants of a long-lost prehistoric civilization, one that had mastered high-temperature material technology we are only beginning to rediscover today? A small group of alternative theorists goes further still, suggesting that these gears may be fragments of a technological knowledge wiped out by a global catastrophe, or even more controversially, faint evidence of extraterrestrial intervention that history has long overlooked. To this day, no major museum or archaeological institution has issued an official conclusion regarding these strange clay gears. They remain a source of ongoing controversy within the academic community, frequently brought up at Southeast Asian archaeology conferences as one of those difficult cases no one wants to touch, yet no one dares to ignore. What was once dismissed as harmless pieces of fired clay has now become a key fragment, opening a far more complex maze of questions. Who created them? How, for what purpose? And if these are merely isolated components of a larger mechanical system, then where is the rest of that machine still buried and waiting to be uncovered? The silence from scientific institutions only adds to the allure of the mystery, like a quiet challenge issued to the minds bold enough to break free from conventional thought. In the frozen wilderness of Lapland, far removed from any trace of ancient settlements, a strange discovery was unearthed beneath the permafrost. Large copper discs, warped and dented as if struck by an invisible force. They bear no inscriptions, no handles, and serve no clear function, yet their method of construction completely contradicts every known technique of ancient metallurgy. They are not weapons, not tools, not ritual offerings. And the most unsettling part, they appear to have never truly been made at all. Smooth, seamless, and alien in design, These dented copper shields offer no clues, only deeper questions. Who left them in this icy void? And how could such objects exist in the first place? What do you think? Could this be the remnant of a forgotten prehistoric technology, or proof of a hand at work, one that doesn't belong to any history we know? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Despite their seemingly simple form, the dented copper shields of Lapland defy conventional explanation. These disc-like artifacts, measuring 60 to 80 centimeters across, are flawlessly rounded with smooth edges, yet conspicuously lack handles, grips, or any attachment points, features expected of functional combat shields. More puzzling are the deep bowl-shaped dents embedded into their surfaces. These dents are not the chaotic marks of battle, nor the scuffs of clumsy transport. Instead, they exhibit an eerie uniformity, broad, symmetrical, and forcefully sunken, as if the entire surface was pressed inward by an immense, evenly applied force. In some cases, the indentation consumes nearly a third of the shield's area, yet the surrounding rim remains remarkably intact. This suggests that the copper alloy is not only exceptionally resilient, but that whatever deformed it did so without shattering or cracking the structure. It's a level of material response inconsistent with anything expected from ancient metallurgy, and it raises a deeper question. What kind of force, natural or artificial, could cause such damage without breaking the artifact? One of the most baffling aspects of the dented copper shields of Lapland is the unusual location in which they were found. Unlike typical ancient artifacts often discovered in old settlements, burial sites, or cultural ruins, these shields were found in complete isolation, scattered across glacial valleys where no evidence of human habitation has ever been recorded, not even in prehistoric times. Some were unearthed deep beneath the permafrost during climate core drilling operations, lying up to 2 meters below the surface. This raises an undeniable paradox. Who carried these heavy copper objects into such remote frozen wastelands, and for what purpose? There are no traces of camp's tools or human remains nearby. It's as if these shields were never meant to serve anyone at all, but instead were left behind intentionally, or not to be forgotten in the eternal snow. But the most confounding aspect of all is not where the shields were found, or even their peculiar shapes, but how they were made. Virtually all ancient metal artifacts bear clear signs of manufacturing: hammer strikes, chisel marks, seams, folded edges, or tool abrasions. Even the simplest ancient tools left mechanical traces. This is especially true for copper, a tough but workable metal that almost always reveals signs of manual shaping or forging. Yet the Lapland shields are completely smooth. Their edges are clean and uniform, almost as if cut by laser, something utterly impossible with Bronze Age technology. Their concentric curves are nearly perfect without warping or distortion. The surfaces lack hammer marks, tool scars, or the ripples you'd expect from hand forging. Under electron microscopy, the oxidation layer reveals that the copper isn't modern industrial alloy, but it's also not traditional ancient copper smelted from known local ores. Its internal crystal structure indicates the material was formed under incredibly stable heat and pressure conditions, achievable only with highly controlled industrial processes, or through some unknown technological method. Swedish metallurgist Lars K. Mortensen, after analyzing one of the samples, concluded, if this was made during the Bronze Age, they used no hammers, no forges, no known methods. In other words, this is an object that was never made in any way we currently understand. Another major mystery lies in the very composition of the metal used to create these shields. Atomic spectral analysis reveals that the copper in these artifacts does not match any known ore deposits in Scandinavia or even across continental Europe. In addition to pure copper, the shields contain trace amounts of tellurium, indium, and antimony, rare elements typically associated with highly controlled modern refining processes. This combination is entirely uncommon in any known ancient metallurgical techniques. This raises a deeply challenging question. If the copper did not originate from this region, then who brought it here, and for what purpose? One surprising detail is that within the rich body of Sami folklore, the indigenous people of Lapland, known for their tales of forest spirits, ice gods, and mystical rituals, there is absolutely no mention or oral tradition relating to these dented copper shields. No rites, symbols, or myths reference any object resembling them in form or function. A few of the shields do bear faint markings that resemble symbolic lines, yet they do not match any known writing system or ancient religious iconography. It feels as though these artifacts exist not only outside of recorded history, but beyond the very imagination of the people who have lived in this land for generations. Many theories have been proposed to explain the origin of the dented copper shields of Lapland, yet most lead to dead ends. Some conservative scholars have suggested that the shields might be fragments of modern machinery objects, deformed and then frozen over time. However, this idea was quickly dismissed after oxidation analysis revealed that the artifacts are hundreds, if not thousands of years old, far older than any modern device. Bolder theories propose that these could be failed remnants of a forgotten prehistoric civilization. Yet there is no supporting evidence, no tools, no debris, no related ruins. Perhaps the most intriguing hypothesis suggests that these shields were not shaped by physical tools at all, but by some unknown form of energy, possibly intense sound waves, powerful magnetic fields, or another type of non-contact force that deformed the metal without breaking its structure. To this day, the dented copper shields of Lapland remain unsolved. They lie scattered in the ice, untouched by time, as if whispering a message from an age or a maker that left no other trace. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of these objects is not their metal nor their dents, but the total historical silence that surrounds them. No one remembered them. No one wrote about them. No one knows why they exist. Beneath the burning skies of southern Arabia, in one of the driest, harshest deserts on Earth, lie a series of colossal spiral wells, silent, symmetrical, and carved deep into ancient bedrock. No writings, no artifacts, no clues about who built them or why. They don't collect groundwater. They don't lead to buried tombs. Instead, they seem to harvest fog from the air itself, like a forgotten form of biotechnological survival etched into stone by hands no one remembers. Locals avoid them. Historians are baffled, and geologists can't explain their structure. Are they remnants of a lost civilization, a message left in stone, or something even older? This is not just an ancient mystery, it's a direct challenge to our understanding of history. What do you think? Are these spiral fog wells a brilliant survival invention or the remnants of an unrecorded civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments below. From above, the spiral wells of Yemen look nothing like any ancient well we've ever known. Instead of simple circular holes, they appear as massive stone staircases spiraling down into the earth, each twist laid out with perfect symmetry. The slope of each step is eerily consistent, leading many to suspect that the structure must have been created with precise surveying tools, something seemingly impossible for ancient builders. The steps are carved continuously in one direction, forming a pathway that guides moisture or fog to collect and flow down to the bottom. Most striking of all is the level of craftsmanship. The stone blocks are sharply cut, fitting together without mortar or any visible binding material, much like the mysterious construction techniques seen in Egypt or Peru, structures so advanced that even today we struggle to recreate them. This is arguably the most controversial and puzzling aspect of these wells. There are no documents, inscriptions, symbols, or folklore referencing their construction. No one knows exactly who created them, when they were made, or even why they exist. Geological surveys of the surrounding area reveal no cultural context, no signs of settlements, no tools, no remnants of human activity. This leaves researchers baffled. How could such refined structures exist in complete isolation with no trace of a society to support their creation? Some scholars even speculate that these wells may predate the known history of Arabian civilizations, potentially originating from a lost culture that left no records. Attempts to carbon date the rock around the wells have proven inconclusive, as the structures are carved directly into solid bedrock, offering no organic material for testing. This makes determining their age virtually impossible. Locals sometimes refer to the builders as those from before, but no one remembers exactly when or who these mysterious people were. Mystical legends only deepen the ambiguity, hinting at ancient beings or forgotten rites, but offering no concrete answers. These wells are located in some of the driest regions of Yemen, where rainfall is scarce and groundwater is nearly absent. Yet remarkably, it has been discovered that at night, fog from the sea or humid air drifts into the wells, condensing along the cool stone walls and dripping down to collect at the bottom, where a thin layer of water is often present year-round. If intentional, this would represent an extraordinary survival strategy. Whoever built the wells may have understood the principle of nighttime condensation from cold air, a concept only recently used in modern fog harvesting technologies. Thanks to their spiral shape, the interior temperature cools gradually with depth, creating ideal conditions for moisture to condense. The inner stone walls are smoothed, guiding water toward a central basin. Every detail suggests this is no accidental formation, but rather a deliberately engineered structure surpassing the known technological capabilities of ancient peoples. Some independent exploration teams report that their compasses spin erratically at the bottom of the wells, a phenomenon not yet widely verified, but intriguing to geophysicists. Additionally, when a person stands at the well's center and makes a sound, the acoustics produce three-dimensional echoes with no clear point of origin. The reverberations do not return from a fixed direction, but seem to bounce from all around, disorienting the listener. This may be explained by the enclosed spiral shape and unique acoustic profile, but further study is needed to understand the full mechanism. To date, over 14 such wells have been discovered scattered across central and southeastern Yemen. They vary in depth and diameter, but all share the distinctive spiral staircase design with stone-carved grooves and a basin at the base for water collection. None of these wells are used in modern life. They've been abandoned, partially buried by sand, or regarded by locals as sacred places not to be disturbed. Curiously, there are no crude or unfinished versions, no prototypes, no half-built wells like one might expect during a technological evolution. Each appears as if it were crafted by a hand that had long mastered the technique. In the absence of archaeological data or historical context, many theories have emerged. They could be the work of an unknown ancient civilization with advanced environmental engineering skills. They might be ancient weather stations used to measure fog or humidity for ceremonial purposes. Perhaps they were spiritual convergence points used in rituals to commune with natural forces. Some fringe researchers suggest they are remnants of pre-human or non-human technology built with lost methods we can no longer comprehend. Regardless of the theory, one truth remains: no one knows for certain where these wells came from or why they exist. The spiral fog. Wells of Yemen are not merely mysterious structures, they are mirrors reflecting the gaps in our historical knowledge. They remind us that even in a world we think we've thoroughly explored, unanswered questions persist, and some creations defy our timelines, taxonomies, and logic. Perhaps these spiral wells are the whispers of a forgotten civilization, carved into the desert stone as a riddle no one has yet solved.